Michael Tidwell and Michael B. Casey.
Blocktime.
Love that intro. So, it's block time, and this is Michael Tidwell.
And this is Michael B. Casey.
And this is Chris Cleesholt.
And it hurts my feelings because on our last podcast, I specifically asked Mike in Space to make us a new intro song, and he never even commented on that at all.
So Mike in Space doesn't call, he doesn't write. He's big time now.
With Bitcoin Car Talk.
Yeah, Bitcoin Car Talk.
Yeah, so he didn't make us a new intro. So I just want to put something out there for anyone who listens to this. If you make us a new intro to include Chris, we will just play it. We'll just use it.
Be careful what you ask for.
If it's somewhat, I mean, if it's like completely just inappropriate and bad, maybe we won't. I don't know. Like,
Well, then we especially will.
then we will play it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if it's got to be good, so it can't just be. I don't know. All I'm trying to say is. We can make it like a contest. Whoever gives us the best intro, we'll play it, and then we'll do like, hey, next time we do a podcast, if someone else sends us an intro, and it's better, we'll play that one. So it's like, we're always looking for the best intro.
Can I ask you a question?
Or maybe just the last intro we get, we'll just play.
That little thing that says block time at the end, is that Andreas saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got a very distinct voice, right?
Block time.
Block time. Yeah. So. Chris I would say you're officially part of Blocktime. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm
being
sorry.
part of the brotherhood.
This is great.
It's like a fraternity.
We have a lot of interesting people listening and watching now, right?
Like Stephen Pear. Hey, Stephen, if you can. I guess
I
if
don't
you're watching
think-
on YouTube.
Well, he listened to one.
I don't-
right?
I don't think we have
necessarily
that
this
many
one.
people listening.
should we put this on YouTube?
I don't know. Whatever. Do whatever.
All right, we can
I
put it on
would,
YouTube
yeah.
and SoundCloud and iTunes, whatever. It's all like interconnected through that RSS feed. All right, so a lot's been going on. One thing I don't have on here. So I was listening, and I have to finish this later today. I was listening to The World of Junseth, his new podcast that he just kind of started. I think Paul Stortz kind of pushed him to start one. So the fork, the BU, the Bitcoin Uncensored fork, has officially started, I guess you could say. And they're joking because Junseth has the minority hashing power. He's got the minority. He's on the minority chain or whatever. Thought that was kind of funny comparison, but yeah. I almost feel like the most entertaining Bitcoin podcasts don't just talk about Bitcoin. They just go off on like some weird tangent about like markets or like religion or something.
Garfield and Heathcliff, that kind of thing.
I don't know, they'll just start talking about like random stuff, which is kind of cool. Like just not to talk about Bitcoin the entire time, but anyways. So we have some talking points like we always do.
So it's been, 3 weeks since we last did anything?
I don't know.
Last
That's
aired?
pretty good for us,
Yeah.
considering we're usually like once a month or once every 30 days or so.
So, I mean, do we want to lead off with just the price in general? Just because, like, we've seen some terrific stuff.
Do it, Mike.
Well, just in general. Like, what are we at right now? Changes.
1720 or something like that.
1720 by way of, at its peak, it was around 60, something like that. It's close to there.
Yeah, I don't. What did it top? I don't use the Bitfinex price. I just
I
discount
don't.
that.
So let's just talk about that for a minute. Holy crap, the spreads. The spreads that we're seeing these days are crazy. I mean, I haven't seen anything like it since 2013. And it's not just Bitfinex. If it was just Bitfinex, that would be one thing.
Yeah, it's GDAX too.
It's Bitfinex to GDAX to Bitstamp to
No, Bitstamp is the
BTCE.
real price.
So okay.
Why do you say that? Like,
There's,
why not?
Because there's a decent amount of liquidity that you can get. You can withdraw dollars. It doesn't take a week.
Well, GDAX has fairly big liquidity nowadays, right?
No, you can't. It's ridiculous.
guys, we can.
What is it? Let's
we
look
can
it up.
determine it.
Yeah, Poloniex doesn't count.
No.
Well, no, it does count if we're talking U.S. dollars. You're talking about U.S. dollars to Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, but Poloniex doesn't do.
No, but look, GDAX does more than Bitstamp now.
Yeah.
I know, but the liquidity isn't there. At least it
what's
wasn't.
liquidity mean? I mean, it
means
does
that
more volume.
Can you get stuff in and out of the exchange.
It does more volume.
Oh,
doesn't that
so-
determine
so- no,
liquidity?
no, no.
The Chinese exchanges did a lot of volume too, but it was all phony.
So you're saying,
Well, yeah, but this has fees attached to it, so it can't be phony volume because you'd be pissing away money.
I know, but if there is impediment to getting dollars out,
why
specifically-
do you think GDAX has problems getting money in and out?
because
I've never heard that.
because they are very strict on their KYC and AML
Well,
standards.
right, but I mean, people don't trade there if that's the deal, right? Like, so people who don't want to comply with strict KYC, they just don't trade on GDAX or
Exactly.
Coinbase. Right. But I mean, it's still a higher volume, so obviously people are trading there. I mean, so I would say it is liquid. It's just not liquid for 100%.
Right,
of the
but what we're
people.
talking about is the opportunity for arbitrage. 'cause
Arbitrage, yeah.
That's how you get true price discovery, right? If you have multiple exchanges in this case, which
Yeah.
you do.
So speaking about the spread, the Korean exchanges are way higher right now than.
I don't even look at those.
But it's definitely interesting, especially
again,
this
they're probably
Bitcoin.
low volume too.
Well, no, I mean this is 4.8% of the
Well, here's
almost
the
5%
question.
of the entire market
If
is
it's
through
if
a
it's
Bitcoin.
high volume, does it have fees? Like, because that was the
No,
big
they,
problem.
and they don't.
If they don't have fees, then it's a worthless
Why
volume.
would
number.
you automatically assume BitThumb doesn't have fees?
Because that was the narrative
Or
this week
bit-
about a
oh.
lot of these South Korean and Japanese exchanges is that they are playing some of the old games that the Chinese exchanges did. Because a lot of that volume went from the Chinese exchanges over to Japan and or South Korea.
Okay, I mean I didn't hear about that.
Yeah.
Where'd you hear about that from?
Now, granted, this is I
Is
do
this
have
insider?
No, this is on popular media. Like,
Okay.
I'm not saying that I believe this. I'm just saying this is the popular narrative right now.
I'd be inclined to believe it just because I don't think Korea has all of a sudden overnight just become Bitcoin haven. You know what I mean? Where everybody's trading. Like, what is that? So that's higher because like Poloniex doesn't trade XRP. Holy shit! Yeah, that's Poloniex. That doesn't even count. That's Ripples.
yeah.
No, that's funny because a lot of people are trading XRP with Bitcoin. That's kind of funny though.
Well, yeah, but I mean that doesn't count as like a legit.
Does this mean that XRP is being sold for Bitcoin or the other way around?
No, it's just a trade pair. It's either direction.
Well,
Yeah.
because you see sometimes BTC is on the right side and sometimes it's on the
that's
left
just
side.
the pair that they've decided. You have to
Right.
do a pair to get a ratio.
Right.
So you have to put one in front of the other to get a ratio, and it's just the order they've determined.
Okay,
That's
All right.
how some.
I just
exchanges
feel
do
like
their-
it'd be a
That's
lot.
how Forex works.
I just feel like it'd be a lot more simple if it was always BTC and then something.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that would be more information. But they're looking at total volume of all trades back and forth. That's what they want to look at.
That's
Okay.
how a lot of exchanges do they represent their order books is through these pairs like this.
So okay, so I pulled it up. Actually, can you share the screen with what we're broadcasting or no?
If you want,
I'm just-
the coin market cap.
No, I was going to say pull up WinkDex because they show
Sure, let
all
me-
the different exchanges and their.
let me
current
share
price.
this with
Oh,
our-
well, at least a lot of them.
Let me share this with our tens of thousands of viewers right now live. Let me share what we're talking about.
No, but you were just about to get into why South Korea and Japan are what they are now, and the thing is, these margin people who like to trade on margin, they have to move somewhere. Once they move off the Chinese exchanges, they would naturally move to another market, at least another marketplace.
Well, I mean that volume wasn't real volume anyway.
Exactly.
Is
And
what
that-
I would
then the
argue.
margin
I mean,
traders,
those
they
traders
capitalize
weren't
on
really doing anything. They were
Right.
just pumping volume.
Well, yeah, but that's good for people who like to leverage
Well, yeah,
trades.
it can be.
Where should I put it? Who should I cover up? Should I cover myself up?
Well, what?
Should we just use it?
Yeah, just pull it real quick. Yeah, I'm on the WinkDex app. I don't know if they show it on the webpage.
What if we can just make this bigger, and then we can just put in the background when we're done with it? How about that?
Yeah.
All right. So if we want to turn that off, it's just one button. Sound good?
Yep.
All right. So now our audience can see what we're looking at. So all right, what'd you want me to look at?
If they got on the webpage, the WinkDex,
Winkdex.
it's the Winklevoss index that they did for their ETF originally.
Is it like Windex?
Wink. There you go.
So is this considered the real
So,
price of Bitcoin?
No, that's a weighted price. It's actually not a great price. But what you can do is you can look at all of the different constituent prices down below. Symbol last. There you go. So like you can, I don't know if it lets you add. Yeah, add whatever ones you want to look. But those are the current prices at all the different ones. So it's really is a good place to go if you want to check the disparate positions of all the exchanges right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So like Bitfinex is showing 1776 right now, which is obviously still the highest. Bitstamp's 1722, which is not that far off on a percentage basis, but it's much closer to Gemini. And where's Coinbase? Coinbase is 1735. So Bitfinex is still the major outlier here, but for a time, I saw significant spreads between Bitstamp, Gemini, and Coinbase. And that's how you can tell the volatility is really pumping. Because if the volatility is... If something's moving really, really quickly, then those get out of sync because people can't arbitrage fast enough because fiat's just too slow.
Exactly. Well said.
But yeah, but like but Bitfinex is just an outlier. It just is because it has no way to get cash in or out from a USD standpoint.
No, that's an important topic because we have people, arguing with us every day about the fact that we choose one price over the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, especially when you're topping up your card, you're selling Bitcoin for dollars, for example. They want the Bitfinex price. And
of course
they're
they
saying,
do.
Of course, and when they want to pay an invoice, they want the Bitstamp price.
So y'all use Bitstamp for everything?
Well, I can't say. I won't
they
say.
They have their own index.
We have our own, and we try to get price discovery the best we can over the. But it's hard to do, right? You got to factor in a lot of things, right? To get a good price. It's all price discovery, and if we can't have arbitrage, then we can't get good price discovery.
Yeah. So this one, what I'm looking at least, do you see any of the Chinese exchanges on here? Can you add a symbol for BTCC?
Let me see.
I don't see it on there. BTCE, but there's no BTCC. So
they have like a lot of, I think, what are these all U.S. denominated exchanges?
Well,
or
BTCC
USD?
is USD too. It has a USD side, but it's not part of the Windex index, I guess. So it's like the other way usually. Lately here, it's been the opposite of.
Oh, dude,
of Finex.
Chinese. Why are the Chinese exchanges so low? I was looking the other day; they're at like 1,500.
Well, we were having a discussion about this on the Slack, and an individual that I was talking to, he said that it's the opposite in China. You can't get bitcoins out of the exchange. You can get money in and out, but you can't get bitcoins.
Well,
out.
right now it looks like. So wait, is this a Chinese exchange that's denominated in USD?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
and they're also denominated.
so it
in
looks
yuan,
like the price is back to normal because I remember a couple days ago they were at like 1,500.
Yeah, so it looks like all the major players,
Funny.
all the
So-
major players have reached arbitrage, so they're about the same thing except for Bitfinex.
So
which
that's
is
funny
frozen.
because I don't think we've ever had issues moving Bitcoin. It's always been fiat, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if that's true. That's just what somebody said.
I mean, it
But-
makes sense.
but,
Why
well-
would the price be so low? You just buy it, right?
God only knows what the Chinese regulators are doing right now. They could have told them over the last few days, nobody gets any Bitcoin. Who knows? Who knows what they?
Well, I mean, as far as the volume on these Korean exchanges, whether it be fake or real or whatever, it's probably really hard to get a Korean fiat.
So
it's hard to get your Bitcoin on the Korean exchanges. You'd say.
I can't speak to that because the only thing I can speak to is whether
hard
it's
to move your
hard or
fiat off.
easy. Because what's the price right now on the Korean exchange?
like almost
Does
2,000.
Does it have a USD?
Yeah, it's 2,000 equivalent to USD.
Okay, something's wrong there. Yeah.
So it's probably hard to get your fiat off, or it's hard to get your
there
Bitcoin
has to be
on.
some barrier to arbitrage. There has to be a huge barrier to arbitrage for that to happen, and that's usually a fiat-based barrier because Bitcoin has such high velocity. You can get it zip anywhere you want to go, but the fiat side, I don't know what it's like dealing with Korean banks. Maybe it's very, very difficult to get money in and out of Korea. I don't know.
I mean, so I would say those were the two notable spreads that I saw.
And
were the Chinese exchanges at 1,500 and the Korean exchanges at like 2,000.
And that's much higher, meaning usually when the price is higher, that means you can't get fiat in or out. You can't get USD or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And when it's lower, it's the opposite way. You can't get Bitcoin out.
Anyways,
so yeah,
so we hit an all-time high.
Yeah, several.
And I don't know about y'all, but I wasn't really excited.
No, not really.
I wasn't excited at all, actually.
Like when we hit about like 1450 or like 1500, I was like, I got the jitters and I got all nervous, and then that passed, and it's just like, meh.
I was just thinking that there's some manipulation going on somewhere, that someone's leading the pump, and they're just gonna dump it back to some, whatever, what's that called when they dump it back to the whatever the reset value is called.
The new norm or whatever.
No, what's it
called?
Baseline,
or I don't know.
Whatever when they sell it back to the price that it probably should be without this big pump, right?
What do you think the real price would be right now, without this pump and
with
guy or entity or whatever you're talking about?
That's a great question, because with all these new verticals that we have, with all these new use cases for Bitcoin, like I've been trying to tell people, listen. The only thing you need to know about buying Bitcoin, just ask yourself one question: is Bitcoin undervalued? Okay, is it under? It's because if the answer is yes, then buy it. Like if the answer is I don't know or no, then. But the point is like are there new use cases for Bitcoin, like real things, like not just speculation, which is fine. That is a use case. However,
I think England may have found a use case.
Yeah. If you need to pay a ransom, that is a use case. If you need to buy drugs, that is a use case.
Yeah.
If you need to,
because last time you were talking about ransomware being a big use case, and then this news came out that a lot of EU countries are.
So how much money did you make off the ransomware you wrote?
Yeah, I'm going to get pulled into an FBI field office, and then you're going to be sorry because they're going to be like, "This guy, we haven't seen this guy for like 3 weeks, and we're kind of worried."
No, I will say, you called it. You called it, yeah, because you were saying before this latest rash. So definitely.
So what I'm saying is, us speculation people, if we're going to speculate on this thing, then we need to know that there is actually use cases and real things behind this. If there isn't, then we're just betting. We're just spinning the roulette wheel, right? So
I talked about this. So I was on, and you said you watched it, and you said you watched it a little bit. It was like the World Crypto Network, I think is the name of it. And Vortex invited me on his show. Vortex, if you're watching, shout out, cool guy. But anyways, I think Vortex and I both agreed that it's really cool when the utility drives the price versus speculation.
Exactly.
I think we're all in agreement about that.
Well, that's cool.
No one wants to be in a bubble.
That's cool. I just don't think that's the case yet, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, you disagree with him?
No, I think we're still very much in the pitch of a speculative bubble, and we will be for quite some time.
I do, but the question that he posed to me was, what's the real price with sane speculation?
Well, I mean,
on top of utility.
I don't think
price.
that's like a reasonable number anyone can come up with.
Yeah, I don't think that's a real number.
I mean, do you have something in mind?
I'm thinking, maybe, I was about 800, but now I'm about 1,000 because because of what happened in the last few weeks. But I think 1,000 is a good price to say this thing is still undervalued, right? I think we're kind of overvalued at this point a little bit. There may be things that I don't know about. I'm not saying I'm an oracle about this stuff. But.
If anyone listened to like what my predictions were going to be, which are like way off now, maybe we'll see. I said by the end of this year we'd be at 1,600, which was double from the price of what it was when I said that, which was $800. And if you go off that metric, I think we're overvalued. But I kind of feel like we hit that way too quickly. I feel like I'm gonna have to come up with a new end of year estimate.
Right. Well, you got to understand these things. They ebb and flow dramatically when they do. When they move quick, one way or the other. So it's all about orders of magnitude.
Yeah, and we're still in that volatilic rise, right?
Yeah, it looks like.
So what's your price then? If I said 1,000, but
I mean, I don't have a price certain. I mean, and what you're talking about, so it depends on how you define the question. So if you're talking about by utility standards,
Yeah.
what should
Well,
the price
utility plus a sane amount of
See,
speculation.
Insane. What is sane?
I don't know.
Speculation is insane. It's an insane
Sa-
activity.
Well, hold on. Insane speculation might be like how many coworkers have come up to you and
So-
asked now, hey, you know that stuff you were talking about a year ago? How do I buy some of that? Because that's happened to me.
Hold on.
Right.
So you're asking what value would Bitcoin be stable at? If I'm reading you guys
it would
right.
hum along.
What
at 1,000 or
value, if it were at that volume, it would be stable?
Right.
Okay, that's an interesting question. So, like, you take the last cycle that we were in prior to the most recent upward price movement, and if you look at the old charts, that value would be around like 300. That was the value it was stable at for a very long period of time. If we assume that right now we're entering, because I think we're at the knee of a curve, honestly, long term. I mean, we may see a couple more bumps. This one may go down quite a bit, but I have a very strong suspicion it will rise precipitously thereafter for another mini bubble, and heading into a full-on bull run. And if it does that, we could see significantly higher values. I don't know where it'll top out at, but my guess is the bottom will be somewhere around, maybe kind of probably let's see where we are now. That'll be a good stable bottom for wherever it peaks out at. Maybe a little bit less, maybe back into the $1,200 range.
Hey, something more interesting. What you're talking about is really boring. We have beer on the way.
Nice.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is completely boring.
Yeah.
But proceed. Yeah.
It's just playing. We have beer on the way now.
But the more interesting thing about the price for me has been stuff going on with the alts, because it's been very interesting.
That's like, to me, that's why the price of Bitcoin isn't nearly as interesting. Like, if we didn't have pumps in ETH, Dash,
Monero.
Monero
hold on.
hasn't
Monero's
been
only pumped
pumping.
like 33%.
Yeah, it hasn't been.
Okay,
pumping
well,
as much.
ETH Classic then. And Litecoin.
Sure. Litecoin.
Ripple.
Yeah, Ripple. Stellar Lumens, whatever the hell.
NEM.
NIM.
whatever the hell
NIM
name.
came out of nowhere.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if we didn't have all these pumps with these ICOs and altcoins and whatever, Gnosis or whatever, it really takes away the spotlight, in my opinion, from the price of Bitcoin, because when you see these sick gains with 1,000% returns and stuff with these other coins, it's like it kind of takes away the sexiness of Bitcoin, in my opinion, as far as the price is concerned.
It does, yeah.
Of course, if all that speculation was funneled into Bitcoin, that would make Bitcoin
here's the other obvious problem. I mean, markets in general, if you're talking about like the stock market, there's a thing known as a stock split, and in a stock split,
that's what OneCoin does to double their coins, right?
It's okay. I'm not even going to go there. So like in a stock split, you have like a 2-to-1 split or whatever ratio you want. The company decides it's going to, in the case of a 2-1 split, half the value of its shares. And really the reason why it does this is its shares have gotten too expensive. So people look at them in comparison to other stocks in the market and say, oh, that one's too high. I don't want to buy it. Right? So if they do a split, then it's now half the value. And then suddenly a new investor who knows nothing about it, and they're not looking at total market cap, they're just looking at the price of the stock. They look at it and say, oh, it's cheap. I should buy it.
So I'm really stupid. Is that the only reason why they do stock splits, pretty much? Or is
By
it because
and large,
to get more granularity so they can include more of their employees?
Well, they do get more
options?
granularity out of it. They do, and when they get to, because like it's insane to think of when you're talking about Bitcoin prices and Bitcoin terminology, because we have practically infinite divisibility compared to stocks, which have one share, which one share can be typically between a couple pennies all the way up to a couple $100.
It's almost like a scheme. Like, if we do a stock split, we know it won't drop by 50%. It might drop by 30%. So we're going to get so much more value.
The equivalent of a Bitcoin stock split is just everybody switching over to millibits or bits,
Yeah.
and saying this is what Bitcoin is now, and they just refer to it. That's a stop.
When is that going to happen? Because
It's the psychology, right?
It's going to get to the point where Bitcoin's $10,000 maybe, and you know
It's
no one's going
funny.
to really be
It's
able
funny
to
because we
buy
could switch
one.
to millibits right now, because right now a dollar is 1.8. You know, well, a Bitcoin's a dollar's 1.8. Or sorry, yeah, $1.8 a millibit.
I think so.
Yeah.
So like a speculator like me,
$1.80 a
who
millibit, sorry.
who might buy like $50 worth of Bitcoin a month, that would be much more attractive to someone. Someone who's someone in my kind of position.
People who don't know how market cap works and how so that,
no,
that's
no.
the
Even
whole,
if I knew how market cap works, that's everything being priced in that.
What I'm saying is this is another reason that alts are much more attractive, because they look at the price of Bitcoin and they say, "Oh, it's too high. I'll never get into it now. I won't make any money." And so look at the price of ETH and they're like, "Oh, well, that's a lot cheaper. I can afford that."
Well, hold on.
And it's like,
recently, until recently, right?
I'll take that
still,
back.
It's even $100 versus $1,800 when they look at it.
Well, hold on. I'll take that back. The one thing that kind of kills that is the transaction fee. So if you are pricing stuff in millibits, and the transaction fee cost is like 1 millibit potentially, you know what I'm saying, or
it's just
0.1 millibit.
It doesn't matter. The prices are.
That's like 10% is that of my transaction as a fee potentially.
It doesn't matter. The percent is still a percent. But yeah, well, yeah. So because
no,
we
the
have
percent is not still a percent. It's a nominal amount.
Well, yeah, but I mean the fee is
Satoshi
still the
per
fee.
byte.
Right.
It's not a percent.
It's the same ratio, regardless of how you denominate it.
No, what? No, it's always byte per Satoshi, and then depending on the value, that determines the ratio.
But if you go to millibits, you're just dividing everything by 1,000.
Oh yeah, I know.
That's all you're doing.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying, but you're in my opinion, you're more likely going to have people wanting to send small amounts of Bitcoin, like a couple millibits. If you start pricing stuff in millibits,
I'm just trying to explain a little bit why you see some of the stuff as far as alts.
Yeah. Can you get the door? That's the beer. I hope.
Yeah, there's a lot of talks about this. Remember when we had the 13 run up with Mt. Gox and all that? There was a lot of hey Emily. When we had the run up, we were thinking about, hey, let's start marketing Bitcoin as going to millibits, right? Because it was like 1,000 or whatever, and it was like it went clean, right? It was like 1 millibit equals,
Convoy switched Bitcoinity over to that, and it's been like that ever since.
Yeah, so there was a lot of
all of 2014 and 15 too. Yeah. Man, that was really hard to read for a while.
Well, we were doing all the research about people like their prices to be between 1 and 10 or whatever, right?
Yep.
If you're thinking about small items like a coffee, your prices should be in units of 1 to 10 or whatever. That's what people have said, right? But that doesn't really track clean with the world of other currencies. Like, for example, the yen, right? A yen is basically like a penny or less, right? Like there's like 100. I think I don't know what the exchange rate is now, but it used to be like 120 yen to $1, right? So it's like less than a penny per yen.
Right.
So.
Yeah, the yen's the base level currency. That's what it's denominated in. Yeah.
If you chill out in Japan for a while, you're used to like denominating things and just adding 2 zeros, if not more, right, to something. So, you look at a price of a shirt and it might be 30,000 yen or something like that.
The big thing to recognize is that it's all arbitrary and it's all it's social. You know what I mean? It's your own social context.
It's just getting used to seeing prices and having a decimal point or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of this stuff does have to do with the psychology of it. So getting back to my original point is we're trained with investments, especially with the U.S. stock market, to think that anything that is $10 to $50 is potentially undervalued, and anything that's over $100 is potentially overvalued.
Right.
Because anytime it gets outside of those bounds, we see a stock split.
Yeah, I think that works. Sure. I think that works in most Western cultures, but not in Eastern cultures.
Yeah, which is interesting. I hadn't really considered that, but suffice it to say is when you look at regardless of what it's denominated, when you look at the price of alts versus the price of Bitcoin, and you see Bitcoin is so high, people don't realize it's divisible as much as it is. and B, that the actual numbers are complete bullshit as far as the value. So they just look at it and they think that they're priced out of the market when, in fact, that they very well may not be.
Y'all,
Yeah.
All right,
Maybe
guys.
psychology. Yeah,
All
definitely.
right, guys. This isn't. All right, we gotta move on. Something more interesting.
No, it's interesting
Like,
because
I'm just playing.
I think you need to pay attention to what new people are thinking about when they're getting into this thing.
Well, all right. For new people getting in, and they ask you that hard question: should I buy Bitcoin? What do you say to that?
See, that's an
I say
interesting
what I told you
topic.
guys. I say you need to ask yourself the question: is it undervalued? And the only way to answer that is first you invest in yourself and you invest in learning the technology first.
People
Yeah,
don't like
but-
learning things, though.
But that's against Tizen's principles.
Can you explain that?
Principles of life-changing money?
Yeah, you don't need to understand the technology. You just need to know if it's going to go up.
Okay, fine, but that's a novel. That doesn't sound like a real thing.
So
Apparently, they're making good money doing it. I don't know.
This is
That's like
how
stoner-
you set
stoner talk
yourself
or
up
something.
and fall for scams.
It sounds
I mean,
very stoner talk.
If you don't know what somebody's doing, and then you're just setting yourself up to fall victim to a scam. If you don't know how
Exactly.
something works, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. But
So-
what
so
if you
hold
know
on.
it's a scam?
If you
just
know if you know it's a scam and you know how it works and you know it's a scam, then you know when to get in and when to get out.
Right.
So you
Interesting.
can make money that way.
Right.
Yeah, but
But
yes,
but if
that's
you
still
don't
a
know,
risky proposition.
it's a risky proposition. But I think that's how people who are introducing other people to some of these lesser, that's how they make their money, is knowing when to get in and when to get out.
So let me read some stuff from the Audica chat right now. Shores, I don't know how to pronounce that. SJORS. Shores. All right. Anyways, he said, in case you plan to discuss WannaCry, has anyone actually got their files unlocked? It seems really impractical because they only use 3 hard-coded addresses. My working theory is that whoever is behind this was surprised by how fast the thing spread.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I didn't know there were only 3 addresses. Thank you so much for the insights.
that's interesting.
There. That's
So,
cool.
so we have 3 viewers
So,
right now.
for
4 of them are probably fakes. So we have 7 total. I
so
think
the people
3
who
of
are
them
logged
real.
in probably know what WannaCry is, but for the wider audience that may never
Did you say
materialize-
whiter?
wider?
Oh, okay.
I was just gonna have to. That was a microaggression.
All right, for the wider audience that may not know, WannaCry is the crypto locker like attacks that are currently plaguing a lot of institutions in Europe. The NIH in England, I heard Germany has a outbreak of them and several.
Can you talk about? So I read something. I don't remember where it was from. That they were actually receiving some ransom Bitcoin or what?
Well, I mean, yeah, I read.
Like, there were several people paying out, and it was publicly.
Yeah, I read they got a couple of payments. Yeah.
So when he says 3 hard-coded addresses, does that mean 3 Bitcoin addresses or 3?
It sounds like I may be reading him wrong, but it sounds like he's saying that the program itself only has 3 possible hard-coded Bitcoin output addresses rather than something deterministic.
Well, I'm glad.
Which would
Well,
be,
wait a minute, that
which
is
would be really
deterministic.
dumb. No, if they're hard-coded, that means there's 3 addresses rather than saying like a seeded, some sort of thing where. Well, see, that's interesting.
Well-
So now I'm thinking about it too, because if somebody has the code that spawns a deterministic address,
Right.
they can then see all. It's having an XPub key, so they can see all the potential addresses. So there's no good way to handle that, huh? That's
Well, wait a
interesting.
minute. No, you can't. You can't know all the public addresses. You'd have to
No,
have the private
I'm
key.
saying if the program is running on the computer that generates
Oh,
the
yeah,
addresses,
yeah.
then you have to be able to determine what you necessarily. You have the XPub key, and you can
Yeah.
determine what all the addresses are going to be. So what he should have done is he should have pseudo randomly generated a few, 100,000 addresses and have it picked from a pool of that.
But here's
And
why.
just have that like in the binary
Or,
of
well,
the program.
something, yeah.
No, here's why he doesn't want to do that, right? Because this is a new vertical, right? So so whoever did this wants to get Bitcoin, right? And perceivably have the price of Bitcoin go up, right? I would assume.
So you think this is a bit?
because if they
This
if
is
they
a
didn't-
hodler that's doing this?
maybe because say like you get this Bitcoin, right? How are you going to move this thing? You're going to sell it on local Bitcoins, probably. Maybe you try to launder it through some exchange. Good luck with that, right? With all the restrictions.
You hold it and pray for a fungibility fix.
Right. So if you use a limited number of Bitcoin addresses, that allows people to look at the balances on those things, right? And they can quantify what these things are getting, right? And so if you're getting mad Bitcoin with this thing, it's going to be, they're going to tie it to the rest of the market, and you're going to be able to up the, you're going to be able to give good metrics to people saying, hey, is this a real thing or is it not a real thing, right?
Yeah, I'm operating under the assumption that person wants to cash out. That's what they want.
Well, of
they
course,
want to
yeah,
cash
yeah.
out.
Right.
Hey, so the other interesting thing, if you have these really public ransomware addresses, are Bitcoins coming out of that forever going to be plagued by not being able to be cashed out on exchanges?
I think we had this discussion last time.
I don't remember. What did we say about
fungibility.
that?
Well, we were talking about taint and taint percentage, because if you move it to another address and mix it with other funds, so ideally what you would do with a smaller amount, not a large amount, is you would run it through like a coin join mixer, to where it would tumble it, and then what comes out, you have no idea if it's actually the guy or somebody else.
Okay, all right.
That's the only decent thing to do. But here's the problem with that is, those don't have a crap ton of liquidity. You know what I mean? And they do carry with them, at least now, until we get some like tier 2 stuff, they carry with them the ability to be ripped off because they're relying on third parties.
And they're all run by the NSA anyway.
Probably they are. That goes with, that's a very good point. I mean, several of them today could be honeypots.
They are. I'm quite sure that a lot of that stuff is run by the government themselves. They want data. They want that's the currency.
And that's the way to do it. I mean, if you assume nearly everybody in CoinJoin has something to hide,
exactly,
which they probably do, but
yeah. So kids at home, don't use CoinJoin. Use what we all use, which is Shapeshift. So go use Shapeshift and sell to Monero or something, and then sell back to Bitcoin.
So, so like that guy couldn't use Shapeshift, I don't think, because those addresses almost certainly would be flagged.
So,
Eric, sorry, Shapeshift. I was going to say Eric Voorhees coming. I'll just call it Shapeshift. Shapeshift. What they care about?
No,
whether
well,
okay. I was about to say. I feel like Eric Voorhees wouldn't like.
No, he does. He seems like a general laissez-faire kind of guy, but
like that's
an understatement.
But you never know. You never know. And also, so it only does it in small amounts. So that's one of the drawbacks of using Shapeshift. So you'd have to if he got I don't know how many Bitcoins from that, he'd only be able to get a few through at a time, and people would be watching.
All right, so I wanna move the. Let's see, the stream. I just call it that. Back to Chrome, and let's look at. So Shores gave us the addresses of the ransomware accounts.
What's the balance in there now?
So there's 3. He posted all 3 links. We got one with 3.6 Bitcoin.
What? Wait. 3 Bitcoins. All they got from a ransom.
Wait, hold on.
There's another address with 6.8.
That's not nothing.
And then there's one with 5.
Still nothing.
So he's got, and if you look at total transactions, 38, 34, 30.
That means
what
nobody
about
paid.
So we can look at like the normal, input to this account.
Look at all those outputs right there.
Oh, how much is he taking out?
Oh, they're paying from an exchange.
0.001, 0.002. Wait, hold on. No, I need to really look at this.
He's
So
because this is the one I need to look at.
Is the going
he's
price.
Mixing look, see all the 00111. Like that's a classic mixer right there.
Mm-hmm.
So wait a minute, is he getting? I'm
how much has gone in and out total?
Well, you can see how much
total received is still 3.64 Bitcoin. So
he's sending it back to himself.
Like, no, to the CoinJoin.
Okay. I guess I'm a little bit confused on
I
what's
think
going on here.
Oh, so there's 27.44 output to what's that from? Because these are all inputs to
right. So
this address.
look at the third one down. You'll see like 00. You'll see like very even denominations of outputs.
Like you mean like right here?
Yeah, here. Yeah, that's a CoinJoin right there. Classic.
Yeah.
So why is this? All right, explain this CoinJoin transaction right here.
So what you have is you have
this input.
You have mixers that operate on
4
one
outputs.
denomination. Like you'll have a mixer that operates on like 100 or 100,000
Here's
satoshis.
what I don't get. Why is the output going to our target address? Because he should be mixing from it, not to it.
Oh, that is true. Is that
It's
the output
weird.
address?
Yeah,
in
that's the
purple?
output address.
Right
So the
here.
one that's not a link, that's the one we're talking about. So this is something else. I don't know what it is, but
Wait a minute. All right. What the address right here is 115p. Okay.
yeah. So it's the only one that's not a link of the outputs.
Yeah, it's getting sent 0.001 right here.
It's really weird. I think people are fucking with it. I don't know.
Maybe they're mixing.
they're using it as a mix address. Right?
How is that possible? Oh, maybe he's mixing in other Bitcoin in there. Like
Wait.
he's sending it to himself.
Wait,
into that.
hold on. This other address that he's using is 12T9, and you can see 12T9. This other one is 13AM, and then he has this 12.
Yeah, but those are just
so
between all the addresses.
So all three of these addresses.
Now, that's somebody else. That's
the,
somebody else flagging the addresses, is what it is. They're sending him a transaction to flag the address for some reason of all three of those. Because look at the amount.
You see,
That's like a minimal right now. That's a minimal transactable amount of Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's
You know, it's like-
So it's almost like
that's 1,000 satoshis right
It's
there.
almost
right,
like
exactly.
they're flagging.
So anything less, the fee costs more.
It's
So
almost like
it's somebody flagging that
in the
address
blockchain.
In the blockchain,
yeah.
yeah.
So they want to flag publicly that these are the three addresses.
But I mean, this is somebody else. This has nothing to do with the attack. This is something else.
So
yeah.
I don't even know if this is CoinJoin.
No,
Chris.
I wouldn't say it is.
Yeah, maybe not. So,
Yeah. No. It's just interesting because we're just looking at it together. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, no, this is all very interesting stuff. So,
Let's see. Like this looks actually like a real transaction right here.
But I mean, again, okay, so that's
so this
right.
one actually looks like someone
look at the
might have
value.
paid the ransom.
Yeah, that's a ransom pay.
So
'cause
$1.6
it's $300 in Bitcoin. So that's 1.6. I guarantee you that's going to be close to $300 because that's what it tells you to send.
yeah.
Which is like 1,700. So yeah, I mean $272.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
Or what?
What's the ransom in dollars?
300
It's
is what
$300.
Mike
Okay.
said. So that actually looks like whoever this guy is probably paid the ransom. Right
Yeah,
here.
that looks like somebody who paid the ransom.
So anything around 1.6 to 1.7 is probably a ransom payment, like this guy right here. Well, that's actually 1.7 exact. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
So what the hell is this right here? This looks crazy. What is this transaction?
That is a classic
Swipe?
sweep transaction.
Yeah, but doesn't a sweep have a lot of inputs?
it's an opposite.
It's
sweep.
an opposite.
It's one
It-
output and
it's a one input and a
shit
ton
of
of it's an
Right.
opposite of a sweep. So why?
Oh, it's like a payout, I guess. Right?
Well, yeah, but hold on. Hold on. Look at our transaction versus the rest. Is it higher, lower, or the
No,
same?
it's the amount of the ransom payment right here.
See, okay, well that's weird. Why
It's
would anybody
1.7.
send?
Oh,
it's
okay.
like part of the ransom payment. They also I might as well send it to.
No. That's a classic exchange. If you send from like Coinbase,
Oh,
that's
it's
what
an
they
exchange.
Oh,
It's an
so this
exchange.
was
that came
so this
from an
was
exchange.
someone sending like from
Somebody
a Coinbase.
had Bitcoin on a
'Cause
Coinbase,
okay.
and then they sent all those other
Okay.
amounts to.
It's like
Okay,
what they call a payout. Like
yeah, it's a payout.
Okay.
Now that makes sense.
Okay, so someone paid from an exchange
it
to one of
just
these
amazes
addresses.
me that
Right.
we're talking about under 10 bitcoins as a sum total. That this massive, earth-shattering, you know what I mean? Because it's been on the news for like the 24 hours news cycle for a while. I thought it was bigger.
Well, I mean, hey, who knows in like a week if this isn't like triple, quadruple the
No,
amount of
they
Bitcoin.
cut it down. They cut it down. Remember? So this is
So
the
it's
other
not
thing for the
$300
viewers.
anymore? What
No,
do you
no,
mean?
no. So one of the security workers found a kill switch for the.
Oh yeah,
propagation.
that was right. That's
Yeah.
right. So they.
So
okay.
I mean, it's not likely to get any worse than it is now. We'll probably see more payments, but this is just the first wave.
But what we do know is there's a lot of companies that operate honeypots that intentionally get infected so they can track what
They'll leave-
addresses people are
yeah.
using, and then they track how much, and then they put out reports that say, hey, last year, we calculate that the market was 300 million or something like that.
Okay.
So-
Interesting. All right, I want to close out Chrome.
WannaCry.
Thanks for
So-
sending us the addresses stores.
As I read,
Sorry.
I read on Reddit, it was pointed out that these were actually these attacks that were used were part of the 0-day vulnerability set that was leaked by the NSA to WikiLeaks.
Is it the CIA or
Or
NSA?
sorry, CSA. Well, one of the three-letter agencies, whichever one grabbed the 0-day. What was it, 0 year? But it's part of the huge, massive leak that actually allowed these exploits to take place. So we can thank the U.S. government. So thanks, guys.
Well, the people who operate these networks should be patching immediately upon hearing about this. It's been several weeks, if not months, right?
Yeah, there are patches out. People need to update.
All right.
Or alternatively, back up your stuff.
Just don't back it up with the virus.
Back
it up early.
They do a full backup with the virus.
With the virus. Oh, I got a virus. Time to back up.
The IT guy's like, don't worry, we have a backup. They put it in prod, and then you have to still pay that malware. Like, oh.
Yeah, they backed up the
they back up
encrypted
just
files.
the drives. Yeah. So you heard me mention Tizen earlier? I actually had I spent some time with Tizen on Friday. We hung out. So he lives pretty close to where I work, and he was just asking if I want to hang out. And we just chatted for a little bit. He actually it's kind of funny. He's a content guy. He always wants to film and stuff. So we go to Avalon, and he starts filming. And like we're just sitting like on like one of the tables or out in the park or whatever, and we do like a 30-minute interview or whatever, and he goes to his camera. He's like, none of that recorded. Like he recorded it, so it was interesting because I didn't really know this.
Have you checked to make sure we're recording right now?
Oh God!
Did you guys do a whole podcast and you didn't record or something?
I don't know.
We were
drunk.
no, we recorded. It was just so bad. I never played.
It was not good. It was not.
And it was really short. It was like we got interrupted and.
So are we recording? Yes, no.
We're
okay.
recording.
Just checking.
I mean, even if we weren't, at least we have beer.
Yeah, we should just come together every Saturday and just put headphones on and start.
This is just an easier way to communicate, guys. Like.
That'd be funny if you want to have a serious conversation. You got to put the headphones on.
That's the new passing the ball.
Yeah, it's like I turn off your mic if you're talking too much. It's like everyone
cut
gets
the mic.
Yeah, everyone gets equal share.
He totally pulled a CNN on somebody. He just cut the mic on them and say they're having difficulties with the satellite. I guess I've been filtered out.
All right. Well, I was trying to make you still talk, but you stopped talking immediately.
You've seen all the CNN clips where they say, "Oh, we've lost the satellite feed," and it's not even a satellite. It's like a guy is on Skype or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen that, but that's funny.
Those are hilarious.
So I hung out with Ty, and so I learned something because he filmed by accident in 10K, and 10K only films up to 10 minutes or something on a phone.
Yeah, 10K.
Or no, 4K.
Okay, if he was filming in 4K,
10K on a phone, that would be crazy.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so he was filming in 4K, but when you film in 4K, you can only film up to 10 minutes at a time, which I did. It's interesting, but.
Why? You just have to restart it every
I think it's
no, you run out of space.
I think the phone gets hot. It's like a lot of process, and it's just how the phone's set up. But anyways, hung out with him, and I've been doing a lot of stuff with Bitcoiners or blockchainers or whoever. If I don't know what Tizen is, what would you call him? And just an investor?
I don't know him. I've never met him.
Really?
I don't think so.
He doesn't. You don't watch YouTube, right? Like
I'll watch his stuff.
But he knows about YouTube Red.
Okay, well, I'll
he's a
watch.
YouTuber.
I don't know everything. So
Well, I mean, you're not necessarily missing much.
Listener.
He usually just talks about like investments. Like if
Okay.
you want to invest in this altcoin, I don't know if that's.
Is he a Chinese gentleman?
I think he has Chinese background, but I don't think he's Chinese.
He's Vietnamese. I think Leon's
okay.
Chinese.
Okay, yeah, but he's pretty much American.
Yeah,
I would just call him
he's
American.
American.
Okay.
I
So
wouldn't even-
ABC, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't even think of him as like Vietnamese or
You know
Chinese.
that term, ABC, American-born Chinese.
Yeah.
I know now.
Well,
but
okay.
then
But he's
again,
Vietnamese,
he's
so-
ABV.
ABV. Okay.
Yeah. So I hung out with
he
Vortex.
immigrated. Yeah. When he was
So
a kid.
he did the World Crypto Network. I should know that more because I was on it. And there's a bunch of guys on there. You said you like the British guy or whatever.
Yeah, Renegade.
Wait, did we already talk about this? I feel like we're repeating ourselves.
I don't know.
I like the Renegade investor guy. I don't know if it's he goes by Renegade, but I don't know if it's Renegade investor or something else. But I like that guy.
There's some guy on there that I never heard of that I told you about earlier. Some guy named Andrew who seemed like a developer and like a Bitcoin enthusiast, like a Bitcoin maximalist almost.
Yeah, it
and,
looks like he's in his attic because just all raw.
Yeah.
plywood.
Well, yeah. It was like pretty much like it looked like he was either in the attic or a barn. I mean, you I mean, I noticed that too.
Yeah, and the
He seemed like some
rootstock guy.
Diego.
Diego was
Diego
there,
was
yeah.
cool,
who
man.
we
That
who
guy's
we
cool.
met in person, and I wanted to ask him. It was funny. I wanted to ask him. So, how would you compare this to drive chains, right? Because we're friends with Paul Sporks, and I think it was Andrew or someone else asked it like right before I did. I was like, oh. But I asked him. I asked him an interesting question though. Yeah,
Andrew, he sort of capitalized the whole conversation with Diego because he was just like all about, is this like JavaScript or is it not, because he's all about JavaScript and web stuff and web sockets and all this other stuff.
Yeah, what was he talking about? That was like he was talking about something interesting that I don't know if I've ever heard of. That he was like talking about. Don't ever use JavaScript. Use something else.
Yeah,
and I was like,
everybody's hot. It's the new hotness is this thing called
web.
It's
Logic.
No, it's ASM. It's like assembly, WebAssembly.
WebAssembly.
Okay,
That's
WebAssembly.
hot
So in
shit.
WebAssembly, WebAssembly is supposed to be like the common language between all things can compile down to WebAssembly. So if you're like,
So you can code in any language.
if you're like
and it's
JavaScript guy,
executable.
that it will you can directly compile to WebAssembly. If you're a Rust guy, it'll go to WebAssembly.
Yeah, but it's all for like web.
I want to write
development,
it.
right?
Hey, I want to write a web page in C++.
You can.
Just me.
You can. There's nothing stopping.
I want to
anybody.
do that. I want to do bitwise moves.
But so WebAssembly is the hotness because it is sort of like the lowest common denominator between all these languages like Rust and JavaScript.
I mean, was
So-
it just gets down to like the actual calls
it's a compiler.
to C++ or
Just
whatever all these
think
things
of it
are
as
written
an
in?
in-browser compiler.
Think
Okay.
of like bytecode in Java.
A
Okay.
universal in-browser compiler.
All right,
You know?
cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for breaking that down. So one thing that I asked Diego, which I wasn't clear on, was I was like, "How are y'all making money? How do y'all make money?" And I don't know if this is like common knowledge or whatever, but it was saying he takes a 20% cut when you go in and out of the two-way peg. Did y'all understand that part?
Yeah,
I didn't see that part.
Yeah, that's.
Can you explain that? Because I didn't want to like bombard him with questions because everyone had some. But do you pay a 20% fee when you utilize the two-way peg? Essentially,
Yeah, exactly. Like kind of like what BitPay does when they take we take a 1% fee for converting, for taking presenting an invoice to customers. They pay. We then before we settle with the merchant, we then take our cut. So he does the same kind of thing.
So why would you pay 20% if this is open source and maybe you can use like? Do you need a company that's reliable to maintain that two-way peg?
You kind of do and he does explain this, but not in the World Crypto Network that you were on.
Yeah.
He can explains it in other places. He explains why Rootstock delivers value to its customers and the way. Okay, so basically, I won't go into all the details, but what he says is it's incredibly difficult to bootstrap a new reliable altcoin, right? Especially one that is riding on Bitcoin or in this case Ethereum. So because you have the problem of the pre-mines or the shenanigans that happen at the beginning of a new altcoin, right? So what he wants to do is wipe away all that risk for people so that they have faith that a new two-way peg in this case is going to be on the up and up. And so that's the value that he's delivering.
So, quick question, because I'm forgetting now. It's been so long. Is he reliant on a transaction malleability fix to?
Yes, he is. And
So he still
explains
can't
it.
do anything until SegWit or something else goes.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Now,
Poor guy.
Well, no, he also explains why he's on Ethereum, right? 'Cause
Yes.
hey,
Oh, so he switched Rootstock. Oh,
he wants to be on Bitcoin, but he
but
can't.
I mean that's the whole thing. Is I thought Rootstock was an attempt to be Ethereum on Bitcoin. I mean,
it essentially wants to be that.
why
but
would you be Ethereum on Ethereum? I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
It's
I've
not
never
really worth
used,
anything.
I've never used Rootstock itself, but the way he was talking about it on World Crypto Network, this his company is trying to achieve this merge mining thing, and but there's problems with trying to do that because you can get easily attacked. And he talked about having big companies sort of stake doing merge mining so that they can prevent this attack.
so would you say that Paul Stort's drive chains are decentralized because you merge mine without a company?
Yeah, I think Paul has a good idea. I think his idea is a little bit more my style, but
Okay.
I get why people would want to use Diego's company. I don't disparage it. I just think that there's it's kind of like it's not my cup of tea, and I don't think it's like Paul's cup of tea either. So
we so in the Slack channel, if you want to be part of the Slack channel, we have the Atlanta blockchain equivalent Slack. I think it's called blockchainrevolution.slack.com or whatever. Ask for an invite if you're interested. But we're talking about Doge. Let me just run through this. And Mike said something hilarious. I forget how that conversation even go. Do you remember?
We were talking about a 51% attack.
Yeah, we're talking about 51% attacks, and we're talking about if a coin like Doge was like if it was kind of immune to every kind of attack because it's a freaking meme and no one really cares.
Yeah, memes are immune to a 51%
Yeah,
attack.
memes are, and the only thing that can kill a meme coin is a 0% attack, which means
nobody gives a shit.
No one, so people stop mining it essentially.
that's hilarious.
Yeah,
because somebody pointed out because Dogecoin is a meme, and like so it's as a meme it's it's not vulnerable to a 51%. I said it is vulnerable to a 0% attack. However,
I think that was a good rebuttal to what I said.
No, this is funny because let me dovetail on that because my wife looked over my shoulder one day last week and she said, "What is Ripple?" Because I was looking at coin market cap. And I said, "Oh, Ripple's bullshit."
Begin the 20-minute tirade.
No, I just said Ripple's bullshit. She started laughing, and she's like, "No, seriously, what is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's like this thing." And I explained the whole thing about them just giving out basically trying to pump their coin by increasing the supply unilaterally and just giving people stuff, right? And that's exactly what happened with Doge, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a recipe for possible success, right? Because if you just create a currency and just start giving it out, right? You create yourself a market right then and there, right? So people that have Doge or Ripple,
that's what they're trying to do with Bitcoin back in 2012 and 11, right?
Well, they had faucets and shit. Yeah,
right. But Ripple obviously they're starting to manipulate things so that they can keep themselves in the top 5.
Well, see, that's the difference, though, with Ripple, is they still own, 95% of the Ripple, the XRP, is owned by the company and held back. So, the rest of it, and literally, Ripple doesn't... Okay, XRP, it's on Poloniex, so you can exchange Ripple on Poloniex.
And you can exchange Doge, too. That's my point is that if you just create something out of thin air and give it to people, you create yourself a market. And although it has little value... It has some value, and you might actually get people to have interest in it.
Well,
right?
see, my whole problem with that is the problem of distribution, which is the problem Bitcoin solved pretty well, because it distributes it to people who contribute to the security of the network. That's who receives the distribution of Bitcoin.
Have you actually looked at the consensus model of Ripple, the iterative consensus that they're doing?
It's been a while since I looked at it.
I wasn't so. I don't know. I wonder if if people think when they go to CoinMarketCap and stuff and they see this and it's being traded, if they think it's a blockchain.
They do. They absolutely do.
Okay.
Well,
Ripple, I know for a fact that Ripple actively wants to be in the top 3. Like when Dash supplanted Ripple at some point, they were not cool with that, right? Because immediately they regained their top position by pure manipulation, right? There's nobody. That thing about the 0% thing is absolutely true, right? Mm-hmm. Because they cannot get to 0% because they're dead, right? So if they can maintain 0.1%, even by hook or by crook, they're going to do it. And that's exactly what happened.
I mean, yeah, but it's kind of hard to even compare that kind of thing to Ripple because Ripple is it's all federated nodes that run it, right?
Yeah, it's not.
It's hard to even because there is no mining. There's no.
Ripple's not a cryptocurrency.
It's hard to give that comparison.
You can't put it in the same class as even the ICOs.
It's a completely different kind of cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And I could easily make a Python script that creates a for loop that counts 1 to my array, and now I'm making Tidwell tokens that this is my currency. What I'm saying, it's like,
interestingly enough, a little bit of trivia. Do you know who invented Ripple?
Wasn't it made 15 years ago?
No, Jed McCaleb. Jed McCaleb was the originator of Ripple, and Jed McCaleb was the guy who made and sold Mt. Gox to Mark Karpellis. Little bit of historical crypto trivia there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just, yeah.
This guy?
Yeah, that guy.
Wait,
Yep,
hold on.
he's-
Let me share this with our two viewers.
I mean, Ripple's interesting. I mean, it's not a cryptocurrency. It does some interesting things. It allows banks to transfer money between each other pretty effectively, but it's centralized.
Ripple
through-
settles $1 million lawsuit with former executive.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, this guy's making money.
Oh, he sold
And
Mt. Gox.
he's a co-founder of Stellar.
So he wrote
man, this
the
guy's into all
Magic the
kinds of
Gathering
stuff.
online exchange. Jed McCaleb did.
All right.
So you probably the people that would say, well, why do they have any price at all, even if they just give out Ripple to people, right? Well, the reason is because they're in the top. It's like they're in the top 3, right? So people go to CoinMarketCap and they go, oh, I'll diversify into the top 3. Boom! Now you got an 18 cents Ripple.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like a
that's where
self-fulfilling
people go.
prophecy, and that's how things like Reddit got started, right? How did Reddit get started?
Reddit
They got
was a
started
dick
because they got started because they had a bunch of sock puppet accounts that made things like, oh, I don't want to eat in an empty restaurant, and so they basically just created traffic to draw people in, saying, oh, there's activity over there, I'll go over
Well,
there
same
too.
thing with Twitter, or you
Yeah.
know, and anyone else.
So-
Yeah.
So in order to have a successful social media
you
kind
have
of
to make it
platform,
look like
you
it's
have
successful.
to fake it till you make it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. So
Wow.
that's
so that's the
Ripple.
secret. That's the secret of.
They're faking it till they make it.
Well, you know, yeah. Nobody wants to be friends with the unpopular kid, right?
Yeah, if they're behind Dash, they're like, oh crap, we're going under, right?
So we just got done talking about. I want to talk about Trayvon James.
Cool, I'm a fan.
What's up, everybody? And then seatbelt for like 3 tries, and then if you didn't know, in the first 2 minutes of my videos.
I just like seeing people driving.
So you're a big fan of Bitcoin car talk and.
I do. I like people just driving. They're just talking and driving. It's like, well, if you're in a commute situation, you might as well put out some content, right? Why don't you do that?
Because I don't think I'm that interesting by myself.
I listen to audiobooks.
I'm busy listening to other people's podcasts when I commute.
I do. I think I consume a lot of people's content.
Yeah.
Did we talk about this before? Like, who's your favorite personalities in Bitcoin?
Well, I like Trayvon James because he's funny. He seems this might be mean, but he seems pretty naive to like, cryptocurrency and stuff in general. But he's very open. I like that. He's very open about what he's doing, or at least he appears to be. And he's like no shame or irony in him saying, "Guys, let's all buy this coin and let's just try to make it pump up so we'll get rich." Like I'm like, wow, he's like real open about it. Like. One thing that he did that was like really like surprised about. He's like, guys, I sold all my Bitcoin and I put it into Steam. Power it up and power it down, baby. He's like, I'm like, man, that sounds really stupid. And then like the next day, Steam's up 100%. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, does he either know something I don't, or did he help pump that 100%? I don't know.
It's a chicken egg thing.
But as far as favorite personalities, Chris DeRose has put out in today, like this morning, and maybe into the afternoon, because I think Bitcoin Airlog was saying, hey, we're still streaming or something. But Bitcoin Uncensored, now just the Chris DeRose version, he's like interviewing like really interesting people. Like he interviewed this guy from China that was like working with like one of the big like hardware manufacturers or whatever, and he just interviewed like this guy who's like Bitcoin retired, who's just like interesting. Yeah, I would check him out if you had some time. And he interviewed like this gold bug guy, and it's all, and you know how Chris DeRose is like kind of, I don't know what he is, maybe like a centered statist libertarian anarchist. He's kind of like whatever. This guy was total anarchist gold bug guy, and it was just interesting hearing them talk. So I would say Chris DeRose is to answer your question about favorite personalities. I like I would say Epicenter Bitcoin is hit or miss depending on their guest, and I like their guests usually more than the
I will
main
say
guys.
the guys at Epicenter, though, they're pretty sharp. They pick up on things.
Well, I would say they get really good guests. I compliment them on their ability to get interesting people, or at least they have so many people to pick from. You can kind of pick like, that interview looks interesting. And they have like so many.
Yeah. They've been in it for a while.
Yeah, and what's funny is I always kind of like have like a love hate with Tone Vase, and like his last couple of videos have been really really interesting. Just listening to him talk about markets and stuff and like Bitcoin charts and stuff. That's actually kind of interesting.
Markets are always fun.
Yeah, and then of course there's Bitcoin Car Talk. What about you? What am I missing? Vortex or whatever? Like what's yours?
No, I'm trying. I really want to clear out all of my
Bitcoin
subscriptions and I subscribe to Bitcoin Meister and all this other stuff, right? Trayvon James,
I think.
I subscribe to all those guys, but I kind of want to clear them all out and start fresh. Like just start with a new batch because I feel like a lot of these guys. I won't name names because I don't want to cause any problems. But
well, shit, I did.
No, I don't want to. I'm about to say something negative. I don't want to say something negative and name a name, but a lot of these guys, to be honest with her, they're fanboys of Greg Maxwell, and I don't like. Why are you a fanboy of anybody? Period. Right. So
well, that's kind of like Krista Rose. I feel like sometimes
this is why
don't be a fanboy.
This is why I keep harping on. It's the same thing. Is Bitcoin and all these things? It becomes a cult of personality about people. And it's the whole thing about all this stuff is it is not about people. It's about technology. I mean, you can pick a leadership team because you think they're competent, but it's not, he said this, so obviously that's the right thing. No, that's not the way it goes. People need to think critically, and they need to evaluate the technical issues for themselves. You can't just go off the opinion, I trust this person, because quite frankly, that's antithetical to Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Bitcoin's supposed to be trustless.
Right?
You're supposed to not trust anybody.
When I hear people say, Greg Maxwell thinks this, therefore he's the smartest person in the world, therefore that everybody should think this. That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, use your own mind. Like, figure out things for yourself. Like, if you're going to say, well, I don't like this. I don't like SegWit, for example. I'm not saying that, but if I said I don't like SegWit, you should say I don't like SegWit because I feel this. You shouldn't say I don't like SegWit because because
so-and-so says that. Because Roger Ver says.
Well, Roger Ver says it.
Can I throw a counter argument at you?
Yeah,
and this
sure.
is
Go ahead.
what like Tone Vase says. I don't have the time or expertise to know the code base or to really know, so I have to trust people that that are competent.
Well, then guess what?
Quote unquote.
That's okay. Just prepare yourself, because if you don't know what's going on, you'll be left behind.
Yeah,
one of these days.
I mean, I would argue we do that too. Maybe not Chris,
everybody
but
has
we do.
Everybody has to defer a little bit, but the whole point is to be learning. The second you decide to stop learning, that's it. It's over. You need help to learn, obviously, but you have to know what's going on. Fundamentally, if you want to stay out in front in this space, because you can just buy and hold and say whatever, but I mean, if you're actively trading and you're actively trying to see what the market's doing, you have to know what the fuck's actually going on.
Yeah.
Not just say, Greg Maxwell said it's going to be, $10,000 next year. It's like...
Yeah, especially if you're a trader and you've got millions of dollars possibly on the line here. Take a Saturday.
That is interesting. Like, the more and more money you potentially get, like if the price goes up, you'd think like the more and more you would want to actually learn about the technology and stuff.
Yeah,
and like what's going on.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
I think
people,
that's natural.
People parading and actively, they're basically, letting people assume they know absolutely everything about how it works when they know nothing about how it actually works.
Yeah, like you look at these high volume, high equity, these equities traders, right? They don't buy a company and just not know what they do, or not know what what business they're in and what management team they've got and what kind of financials they've got. They know quite a bit about all that stuff, right? So, and I'm sure Tone Vase, I'm sure he did his research, or he had a research team or whatever. But it seems like when you get into cryptocurrency, these people are just like, oh, well, that's too hard for me to investigate this technology and how it works. I'm just going to defer to this guy, Greg Maxwell, who's got his name on a bunch of bips, right? He doesn't know Greg Maxwell.
First off, those people might not even know about pips. You're giving a lot of credit to a lot of people.
So the second somebody says, I trust X, That's it. It's game over.
I trust SHA 256. What do you guys say about that?
Well, quantum attack, motherfucker. That's
okay,
well,
but that's
SHA
okay.
256 is fine. ECDSA is not. But yeah, no, you can trust that until someday we exhaust the key space. But yeah.
I mean, anyways,
but you get the idea.
I think there's levels of trust. You just
Well,
don't want to.
there
You just
are
don't want to
levels
go
of
full
trust.
retard on trust. I
Well,
think
no,
is what you're trying to say.
You're right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have a full understanding of the cryptography. Definitely like Greg Maxwell does as far as EDCSA curves, but ECDSA curves. But you have to always be striving to figure out as much as you possibly can about the technology if
Right.
you're going to invest a large amount of money in.
Right. First, invest in yourself. That's why I really like Andreas. Is he says I'm a fanboy of that guy. To be honest with you, but
Don't be a fanboy of anybody, Chris.
that guy says listen, invest in yourself first, right? Invest in can you figure out how this thing works, and then if you do your homework, and then you say, listen, I feel comfortable enough with this thing, and I'll go from there, right? Don't just say, well, I'm gonna defer. Like, that's a recipe for disaster. That's how, you get people like Joseph Stalin, right? They cult of personality, right? I'm going to defer my whole society over to this one guy. It's ridiculous. Don't do that. That's why we're not here because we're deferring things to people. We're here because we're not deferring things to people.
Well, my biggest problem with this whole thing is everybody has different incentives. And that's what the great thing about Nakamoto consensus did, is it aligned the generic parties.
What was that? Nakamoto consensus?
Yeah.
Does that mean proof of work? What does that mean?
Yeah, basically.
I like that.
yeah.
I think I've heard that, but I've maybe first time I heard it in person or something.
Well, Nakamoto consensus is basically it's using proof of work to determine what agreed reality is. Basically, everybody comes to consensus. This is the way it is in the defined scope of a ledger. But because that's the other thing, and you get into the debate because people try to use Nakamoto consensus to say, oh, well, the protocol should evolve in this way because we've reached Nakamoto. It doesn't really exactly work that way, but it's really more about the consensus on the reality of the ledger itself. But he did that because he was able to align incentives. And the problem with the current ecosystems is you have competing factions with different incentives. So you have one side wants tier 2 at any cost. You have another side that just wants to be able to use the network as it has always been available to them, and they have different incentives.
I want to ask you a question about Roger Ver. Speaking of this thing that you're talking about, debate, I guess you'd still call it.
Hold on. Before you do that, we didn't get Mike's answer to his personalities.
Sorry.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. What
so you guys
you better say
stuff.
you better say Blocktime is your favorite podcast.
I do listen to Blocktime, and
are you a fan of Blocktime? The people on that show?
No, they suck. Anyway, so I don't listen to podcasts much. I really don't. I listen to Epicenter every now and again. A couple of things. I almost never watch YouTube stuff. I had, honestly, before we interviewed him, I had no familiarity with Tizen and Leon Fu. Didn't know who they were at all. Obviously all of Andreas's talks. But, I mean, my big thing that I would say is mostly what I do is read. I don't really listen to...
You're a Redditor.
Yeah, I'm a Redditor, and I spend all of my time reading comments and articles, and these days wading through a river of bullshit because it's gotten really, really, really difficult to enjoy the space on both sides. Like our Bitcoin and our BTC are 90% crap these days. But, I mean, the analogy I used once because somebody asked me, because I said, oh, I hate wading through all this crap. I said, well, what are you doing here? And I said, mining for gold in a river full of raw sewage. Basically, I'm panning for gold. Yeah. That's but I mean that's what you got to do.
You still find gold in there?
Nuggets occasionally, and I don't know.
It's
most of it's
analogy,
pyrite,
I guess.
But yeah, I mean, like, if you want to understand what's going on, you have to dig down, and you have to wade through the crap to determine what actual events are actually going on that are new and important. And then you take those to different groups like the Slack group, and because nobody else, I mean, you have to discuss these things. And
I understand. There's a community that you want to be a part of, right?
yeah, but I mean, I don't listen to hours of audio podcasts or watch YouTube videos because stuff like that to me it doesn't appeal to me because I can't discard things. That's why I don't listen to it. I can't.
You think there's going to be a lot of crap that you're not going to be able to forget?
Well, yeah, no. It's not necessarily like I can't discard things like in my memory. It's like if I'm reading like a comment thread or an article, I can skim the article and get a
you can
good sense
speed
of what it
read.
is. Like if there's an hour-long podcast, I have to listen to like 30 minutes before I decide whether it's worthwhile or not.
I got you.
So like for me, like I read stuff because I can go over it real quickly and be like, okay, that's not.
You
worth
can
reading.
you can
it's like-
digest content more quickly.
more efficiently, yeah. And so because of that, like if my position is such that like I may only have 20 or 30 seconds to look and see what's going on, so I like they'll just look at headlines really quick and see if I can read a quick article, and see, okay, skim through it. Oh my God, I had no idea that was going on, and then I just think about that later. But I mean, you cannot do that with podcast medium. So I just
can't.
Yeah.
I do have to give a shout out to Jimmy Song. He's one of the guys that does appear on World Crypto Network, and he is somebody who doesn't take anybody's word for things. And he's not a fanboy of.
Give me an example.
Well, he'll go on there and say, listen, like, I hear you guys saying how bad BU is or how bad the other side, anything that is anti-SegWit or anti-Blockstream or anti-Greg Maxwell, he will have a more nuanced opinion of things. So I got to give him a shout out to that. He's a thinker, and he'll crack open the code and say, listen, this is not, I can do this, right? I can figure this out.
So well, I will say too, you're talking about personalities in the space. One guy I really like is Willy Woo. He doesn't do podcasts or anything, but he just does analysis, charts, graphs, stuff like that. He's really good too.
What? I don't think I know who you're talking about. How do you spell that?
Willy Woo, WOO. Yeah, he
Okay.
does a lot of analysis.
And to give our viewers this Twitter guy, Danger Mouse.
I think that's him. Yeah, that's him. It's Willy Woo.
Okay, cool. I'll check this guy out. Let me follow him. All right.
There you go, putting people together.
All right. Hey, I wanted to ask you a question. Is you know how Adam Meister calls Roger Ver king of the trolls
Yeah, and he also says China coin all the time.
for Bitcoin? What?
No, for the other side, for the anti-SegWit side. He calls
For
it,
the Bitcoin Unlimited split fork,
Now-
calls it China
Now,
coin, I guess.
why the hell does he call Roger Ver, probably one of the most sincere guys, king of the trolls?
I don't know, because he also says, in that vein, that this is a bailout for Roger Ver. What are you talking bailout? What are you talking
Dude,
about?
Roger Ver has just spent a shit ton of money trying to keep that whole thing running for the last...
Right, but like a bailout is like where you've lost money and you're expecting other people to make you whole.
There's
right? Like
subtle
insurance
things.
plans.
There's subtle things like that kind of make Adam Meister kind of like, to me, like he's like, it makes me feel like he doesn't know what he's talking about, or it's not even that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like he's almost opinionated too much. I don't know.
It's the cult of personality again. Like
See,
he keys off people he respects, and he says, "Well, their opinion is X. Therefore, I'm going to go ahead and be an echo chamber for that." I don't say that that's bad. I'm just saying that when you get in the community where you have no diversity of thought, you get in this situation where you're now a World Crypto Network where you have to basically be on the same page as everybody, and that's how we have Republicans and Democrats and all this other crap.
See, and this is one of the things, though, because we're getting a little kind of meta here, because this is a kind of a meta conversation, because we're not talking about Bitcoin, we're talking about people who talk about Bitcoin.
Exactly.
So it's like, so at the same time, we're kind of feeding a little bit and perpetuating this. Like, I'd be less concerned with what Adam Meister say, and say, oh, what is an issue that was raised? You know what I mean? It's not about the who, it's about the what for me. Like,
yeah, and the issue is he calls that's your question was that. Why
we're talking about personalities.
Why does Adam?
I know. I'm just saying the whole thing to me is a little because yeah.
I mean, that's why he's not one of my favorite personalities personally. But I'll still listen to him.
I subscribe to that guy's channel, even though I have a more.
Well, he puts out
nuanced
content
opinion.
every day, which is
that's
nice.
That's admirable.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry,
No, that's what I'm saying.
That's very admirable.
At least you'll get Bitcoin at 1,000-foot view if you at least listen to them for 10 minutes every day. So
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I would just suggest, if I had a suggestion for him, maybe I should take this up directly with him, but I would just say, listen, you need to have diversity of thought. That's more interesting to me than just saying, well, this is China coin or that's King of the Trolls or whatever, right?
Well, getting a little off topic, but I mean, this is a common trope, a common theme. I mean, people seek opinion of those who share an opinion of theirs and reinforce theirs. People, especially these days in the environment we're in, nobody seeks a dissenting opinion. Nobody wants to see a counter-argument. They just want people to echo back to them, yeah, you're right, I agree with you. And it's just asinine because it leads to shit like CNN and Fox News.
Well, I would
and
say
our BTC and our Bitcoin.
Is the opposite of that easily being manipulated?
No.
Because, well...
No, the opposite of that is people coming together for common discourse, being courteous to one another instead of calling one another trolls or shit like that, and saying, hey, I really want to understand your point of view.
That's why I mentioned Jimmy's song. I disagree with a lot of stuff he puts out.
I disagree with a lot of stuff he puts out.
But I do. He will say stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's a
I actually replied to his
opinion.
Medium article.
He does have a nuanced opinion about things, and there's not a lot of nuance these days.
No,
right?
there's not.
And that's
No.
why I want to clear out all my subscriptions and figure out who in the space is actually putting out like real diversity of thought.
I would say, I mean, going back to Chris Rose, he's always made me think the other side because, I mean, obviously it's he's almost like anti-Bitcoin blockchain. It's like hard to find someone that's like on the end that almost calls blockchain itself completely a scam.
I have a question. I don't know what
it's interesting to hear his opinions.
Well, let me give you here's my question. But a little bit of background before I get to it. I only know BU, like the Bitcoin Uncensored thing. I only heard a couple of their podcasts that they had, and I just basically wrote them off as complete a-holes and complete, like, they weren't earnest. They weren't authentic. They were just trying to troll people and just, for entertainment value only, and they treated people horribly, right? So I don't know what happened with the split. I guess there's some kind of, like, they went their own ways or something like that.
Pepegate.
And I saw Junseth on, like, the World Crypto Network because I'm a subscriber to those guys. I like those guys, but I saw him on that.
Yeah, he told me he came off very, like, not professional.
No,
or
he was inauthentic, and he was very discourteous to the people he was on the panel with, and that turns me off. That's maybe just my problem, but like if you're just courteous to the people you're with, like why are you even there? Like why?
I would say the part I like about what they're doing is it's almost like you can't get that anywhere else, though. And
it's true. It's a different thing.
And it's different.
Okay,
I'll put it that way.
I would classify it more as entertainment than news.
Yeah. So my question was: is Chris Rose? Is he taking going a different route?
He's trying to be more serious,
more authentic,
or he's going to have like multiple personalities. Or
is he like earnest? Because I can't tell. Like if you're just sitting there defaming somebody, but you're just a troll, you're just joking around with somebody and calling them an asshole or something like that. That's fine. That's entertaining. But is he doing that stuff now when he's interviewing like Mark Capellas and that kind of stuff?
I think he's toned it down a little bit, but he's not. You have to remember they actually think that way. I don't think they're being 100% sincere. You got to remember that too.
I guess that's the word, sincerity. So okay,
but they do it. They do it in a very, in my opinion, entertaining manner.
They sincerely don't have any diversity of thought then.
No. The funny part is, I agree. The funny part is, a lot of times they say, we're so open-minded to hear a better solution and all this stuff, but at the same time, it kind of sounds like they write stuff off very quickly. Yeah. And that might be because they're longtime Bitcoiners or whatever. They've heard it all, or at least they think they've heard it all.
Right.
I don't know. But
so see, it's just like the whole whatever Pepegate, whatever. It's just funny because
a meme.
You
have to remember that was.
Well, they call everything a scam.
Including themselves, I guess.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so that was a meme. You know what that is? That's Dogecoin 2.0 is what it is. Effectively, it's just another meme coin. Oh my God! So that's a third class. So, so okay. We have Bitcoin clones, which I would call like cash coins, whatever. So they're monetary value. And then we have the Ethereum style. I would refer those to as like app coins. So they're not made to be money. They're made to run applications with effectively. And then we have meme coins, which are just
Which are
memes.
kind of like ICO coins sometimes too.
Well, yeah. I mean, ICO coins I'd still place into the larger app coin instance.
It's almost memeable.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Maybe I'm just in the mode of I want to learn a little bit about what I don't already know, and a lot of these guys they don't know anything, they just say, oh, I don't want to take the time to research this thing, so I'll just call it a scam.
So speaking about learning, this is my segue. Speaking about trying to learn things and all that, I really appreciate you helping me understand random things with Bitcoin and all that. I actually have been giving talks. So I've been giving talks in the Carolinas recently. North Carolina, a couple talks, South Carolina, and constantly trying to learn more and more. The thing that I've most recently learned, and I want to explain my understanding of this, and then maybe y'all can comment. This was from earlier, but from our discussion, it seems like so checkpoints. Are we ready to talk about that, or did you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure.
Get maybe more on the technical side, but so from our conversation, there's a couple different ideas of checkpoints, which is a little bit confusing when you talk to someone about this and blah blah blah. But so when you're running like a relay node or just a node that contains the blockchain, if your node goes down and you come back online, you have a checkpoint from where you were validating, so you don't have to revalidate the entire blockchain. That's a type of checkpoint. So you might go back, like, let's say, X amount of blocks and start validating from there so you can catch back up pretty quickly. That's one type of checkpoint. The other type of checkpoint that we talked about was we used to actually put in hard-coded checkpoints, I think with, like, the hash of the block header or the block itself with the block number. And we stopped doing that, at block 295,000. And the reason we stopped doing that, according to Chris, or at least the theory is because we developed a fee market, which
Right.
is interesting. Actually, can you talk a little bit about why now the idea is we use minimum difficulty and we don't use a fee market, or I don't know if you want to comment.
Yeah. So the
Or
the,
use checkpoints anymore? Yeah.
so the hope, before block 295,000 or whatever it was that we could perceivably get to a point where we did our oldest UTXO, our oldest unspent transaction output, meaning that somebody sent somebody some coins in the past, would gradually increase, like in block number,
Priority,
right? So,
yeah.
So say like Satoshi buying block number 1, right? Because block 0 was a Genesis block and it didn't pay anything because there's a bug in Bitcoin. But anyway, so he received 50 Bitcoins in the Coinbase for block number 1, right? That's a UTXO, which is still unspent, by the way, if you can look. And
Craig Wright will move it to Pruvy Satoshi
that'd be
anytime
awesome.
now.
That'd be awesome because then we could use
I'd love to
checkpoints
see it.
again, right? So the theory is that if you have really old UTXOs, those should have greater priority in the absence of a fee market, right? Those should have a greater priority because if you spend those into later blocks, you can kind of roll up the blockchain behind you, right? And so you don't have to keep a record of those old transactions because there's no UTXOs back there, right? There's no transaction that could ever spend those because they don't exist back there. Does that make any sense? So
Right, so you have to see the input, so you only have to keep the inputs for coins that
Right.
you need to see the output of. which
right,
are
so
USDS.
it was such that you could actually have a zero fee transaction, no problemo. You could be top in the list with a 0 fee transaction if you had an old enough UTXO, because the miners are incentivized to mine that to get rid
Right.
of that old ass UTXO, so you could have a checkpoint that is at that point or greater, as you move up and mine those old.
This
So,
was something that was implemented by Gavin as far as the ordering of the sets. Before miners ordered transactions by fees, the default ordering, because they could still change the order to be whatever they want, but the default ordering was by age. So it would take the age of the inputs, and it would order it by
Right.
that.
I remember we were still talking about that in mid 2013.
Yeah, and,
Right.
and
Yeah.
if you didn't have a fee market, if you didn't have full blocks, then that's
Right.
fine because you just whatever we need to fill the block, we fill the block, and then leftover
Well,
space.
when you're not prioritized by money, you're prioritized by
Yeah.
space and efficiency. I
Which
guess,
is
or
cool
whatever.
because it
Right.
allowed for free transactions provided by, because they would have like a stipulation, so they would have a minimum transaction fee, but like you could get around a minimum transaction fee, and it wasn't hard coded or something, but generally accepted terms.
Right.
If you had old enough coins to spend.
So how could you make a checkpoint at block 295,000 if you still have UTXOs from block 1?
You really can't.
Well,
you can.
we-
You can
so-
certainly do that.
I
However,
mean, you
like-
can. It's worthless.
Okay, so here's how that would work. You would create. A,
Well,
you-
I'm
you'd have
talking
a-
about the checkpoints and the chain params CP.
Right. This is how you would do that. You would at block 295,000. You would gather all the UTXOs at that height. You would then concatenate them all together, hash that, and place the hash in the Bitcoin in the full node in memory typically. There's also a chains params persistent database, but that's okay. So you'd have a checkpoint with a hash, a 32 byte hash. And then what would happen is if you didn't want to retain any of those blocks that were older than 294,999 and below, you could certainly do that. However, that you would have to have an element of trust so that the other full nodes on the network, the other peers, would have to give you the UTXO set that corresponds to the hash for that at that checkpoint. Now, it's like a 0-1 kind of situation. If they don't give you exactly the right UTXO set, it would not hash.
you know it's wrong, but you can never create the correct
this
one.
and this brings us to the next point of like denial of service.
Right,
Because
so-
if someone's giving you the wrong, you have to verify all these UTXOs before you even know it's an invalid set.
Right, you have to, so if someone gives you the wrong set, you could tell if it's wrong. You just be like, okay, well that's wrong. I can't accept that. And if someone else gives you if they're also malicious and they give you, or they just have a bug or something, they give you a set and it's wrong, then you may not even get a set. Somebody's like, I'm not giving you the set because that's not my style, or
That's not my style, bro.
So it also runs the point where, okay, so say you do that and you run through the entire UXTO set. So who's to say that if you're not required to keep the UXTO set, and you
UTXO
prune,
set? Yeah.
I'm dyslexic.
I'm sorry, that's my.
I'm totally dyslexic. Yeah, UTXO set. Oh my God, I've probably been saying that wrong for a very long time. Anyway, the UTXO set. Sorry, if somebody, if nobody's required to have it in this scheme, if you prune every node, then potentially nobody could have it. I mean, you could store. That's my scenario where I run into problems with this. Is you have the hash of this thing in here, but you have to trust some third party to store the actual data that hashes to that set. So if every node were to switch to this and say, every node would say, I'm going to prune, right? And just turn the key, flip the switch, and they're going to prune, then that set, wouldn't exist anymore in a provable fashion. It would only exist, outside of it. Which means, in theory, you could play all sorts of games.
Well, it's highly unlikely because one of the miners would have to have it so they can mine those UTXOs, right?
Well, for transactions of inputs, yeah.
Right. So that's not in their best interest to do that. So they can
Well,
game
then why
theory.
don't we do that? Why don't we just, prune everything? Prune all the nodes.
Yeah, we could, but it's not that. I'm saying for the miners, they would not do that because it's not in their best interest to do that.
Yeah.
You also talked about something interesting. If I went back to block 1 and started to mine off that, people could reject it more quickly because of the minimum difficulty check.
Yeah,
And the first person who brought that up to me was DeRose. I posted that in the Coin Dojo or somewhere, and he quickly said that. So when you're explaining it, made a lot of sense. Do that again for our viewers.
So every full node has to keep a array or a list of chains that are possible, right? So you kind of think of the blockchain as just one thing, but in a sense, there's not. Like right now, if you looked at if you sort of outputted and you did like a C out in the C++ world, if you printed out the actual
was
array,
that like a printf?
Yeah, it's like a printf in in C.
I thought you could do printfs in C++ as well.
You can. It's a C.
Okay.
Like C++ is a superset of C. Anyway,
I've been told that many times. So if I know C, I know C++.
Anyway.
But I still don't believe it.
sorry, I got off topic.
Yeah.
If you print out the list of active not active chains, but if you print out the list of chains, you'll actually have a dozen or so chains. That's because you have orphan blocks, right? You might have 2 blocks that come in almost at the same time. One gets orphaned. You keep that, right? You keep that in your list of chains. And so the theory is with this minimum difficulty is that if you get a block, it's like the difficulty in blinding that block was below a certain threshold. You'll just discard it from memory and you won't even keep it.
Which essentially means if you start mining back X amount of blocks, I'm not even going to look at you. Essentially.
Yeah, effectively,
because
pragmatically, yeah.
So, okay.
But it also plays into the game theory when what happens when you have a situation where you have a 75-25 split, right? Like say BU does get up to 75% and they start mining, and then you have a 25% minority chain, right? So that might play into that. I don't know what the threshold is now for the minimum difficulty, because their difficulty will get reset after about 4 weeks. Because they're going to be mining they're going to have 25% of the hashing rate.
Should be more.
4 weeks?
2 weeks is normal.
2 weeks, but 4 weeks is.
If you have 25%, it'd take you 4 times as long.
Oh, maybe 8 weeks.
Yeah,
then?
probably 8
Maybe
weeks.
8 weeks.
Okay,
yeah.
so 8 weeks. They're going to have a difficulty reset, right?
Or like 5.
Yeah, I get you.
If
It's
they
before-
manage to mine.
Can I ask you a question about
Yeah.
that difficulty reset?
Yeah.
The difficulty reset, is there some threshold where it can only go up or down a certain amount, or can it jump to the right amount of zeros needed for that nonce?
No,
I don't
it can
think
go.
there's anything.
No, I was just curious. I didn't know if
No,
it has to like somehow do intermediate stair steps, or if it can.
No,
it
it can
can
go. It can jump
Okay.
because the target. What you're
It's-
setting is the target value.
It
right?
takes the actual hash rate over the last X. What
Well,
It just takes the timestamps between back 2015 blocks. Essentially, it's supposed to be 2016, but
Yeah.
there's like probably like some if.
Well, I mean, that was an issue. Retargeting methods was an issue with the number of alts that they changed because they implemented some things like that to do stair steps, like you're talking about, and like Dash has like some sort of gravity thing for different for.
Yeah, Ethereum
but-
has something like that. too.
Yeah, but as far as I've heard with Bitcoin, it's just whatever it literally was, whatever it
Yeah.
calculates to.
The only
directly.
independent variable is trying to target 10 minutes for block for block time.
Cool. I love how we have 2 people smarter than me. I love that.
He knows way more than I do.
Who? Chris?
Chris.
Yeah. I'm saying me. I like being around smarter people. It's
And a lot of
helping me out.
this comes directly from the code, the Bitcoin core code. And the reason I know it very well is because I have to implement things in other alternative implementations, right? So, like in this Bitcoin thing, I don't know if you guys heard of this Bitcoin.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think we've talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah,
If
to
we
be able to
haven't,
do
yeah.
that, that's one of the things that I would like to highlight is Jason Dreisner. He started talking about this defensive consensus system that he has, and the reason he's really bringing all this up is because he's working on Bitcoin too, and he's noting that. Okay, so if you've ever tried to build your own full node, you'll know this very intimately. You have to implement all the stupid mistakes that have ever been done in the past in Bitcoin Core, and there are plenty of them, right? And you start implementing these things, and you're like, okay, I have to implement something that is clearly a mistake. And what we want to do is we want to get away from that. So we don't want to have a reference implementation anymore. And that's the reason I know this well, is because I have to go through, and not only do I have to implement the white paper for Satoshi, but I have to implement all the retarded things that people have done over the years. And I'm like, oh, crap, I have to implement something that's just way off the wall. And so that's the sort of thing that I have to do.
So I want to speak about something that you might not know as much about. That I know for sure Mike B. Casey either knows as much as me, he might even know more than me. Maybe. Which is data warehousing.
Oh yeah.
So if you don't know, I have a strong SQL database background, consultant, blah, blah, blah. Mike Casey has a very strong SQL data warehousing background with General Motors. Now, the question I put on our talking points, and I'm pretty sure 99% of like all Bitcoiners people who are in the Bitcoin space don't know about this, which is Type 2 data warehousing databases. You can just call it, just think, for the audience, it's just think of it Type 2, okay? We're going to call it Type 2. Or we can talk about Type 1 as well. But anyways, Mike, my question to you is, if companies knew exactly what Type 2 databases did, do you think that could replace pretty much all these private blockchains if you had some way of having, if you had a way of doing federated rights to that SQL database?
Well, effectively, that's what a blockchain accomplishes. I mean, if you're talking about a truly private blockchain,
yes,
it is a Type 2 database.
I would, I would argue that companies can use a normal database if they use the Type 2 methodology of that database.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're talking about an actual private blockchain for all that it can do,
and I want to talk about what Type 2 is for people who don't know.
What's really weird. So when people talk about blockchain, they're usually not talking about blockchain. They're talking about applying blockchain technologies such as cryptographic keys and private key assignments and stuff like that. I mean,
so I'm talking about functionally, what do they need?
Functionally, yes. For a backend, what a private blockchain is roughly equivalent to a Type 2 database.
Okay, cool. So we're in agreement about that.
Yeah.
And for the audience who doesn't know what a Type 2 do you know what Type 2 is, Chris?
No, I don't.
Okay, so type 1. I'll just say just briefly. We may not have the same name, but a Type 1 data. Let's start with Type 1. Sure. So Type 1 database is you have a table of entries, and you have a table. Say it's a list of people and their birthdays, people in the last day that they were. So let's say it's people and the amounts of money they have. How about that? Just that's your only two fields, right? So in a Type 1 database, so Tidwell has $0, right?
Fuck.
Yeah, you're broke. So now Tidwell suddenly gets $21 billion.
I like this.
So what you do in a Type 1 database, which is really, it's not a type of database, it's a type of structure within a database. What you do is you do an update, right? And you say update, set Tidwell's balance to 21 billion, right? But if you look at the end result, like all you see in the database is just current. You see
most up to date
current state. You don't see any transactional history. So essentially, actually, which is kind of funny,
which is like a normal way databases are used. Yeah.
Right. So which is fine if everything's 100% transactional and nothing ever goes wrong, then you're fine because you've just updated it and everything's correct now. But the bigger thing is, what if you want to see history and you want to be able to prove or guard against the fact that anything could have happened at any one time? So there was a glitch somewhere and it missed a transaction, and that transaction should have posted, but it did not. So a Type 2 database allows you to do that. Because what you do is, instead of having one row for Tidwell, every time Tidwell has an update, instead you do an insert.
Right. And it's like a journal, right?
Yeah, it's a journal entry.
Yeah.
So you do an insert in, and you say, okay, so that row with Tidwell $0 is still there, right? And it has a timestamp on it, and it says Tidwell $0 as of 1/1/2017. And then so today, you have today's date with a timestamp on it, and you say, Tidwell now, his balance is 21 billion. And that's the simplest form of a Type 2. You can get fancy with it too, saying what type of change was it? Was it an insert, update, delete? So that actually goes into, I think that goes into Type 3. But
the most important thing to note is, it's possible, like what Chris said, it's possible to do journaling in a normal database. And the main methodology of implementing Type 2 is the start and end timestamp for that record.
Right, exactly, because that's the window. Yeah, that's the scope of the record.
Where Michael Tidwell's balance was 0 from, I was born in 1999 to 2017, and then in 2017 I got $21 billion, and then that's the start, and then we have the end of that one record.
So here's where those break down in, because those are
the
great.
End, and then the end record of the newest record is either null or like year 9000.
So those are great, but what it really does, what a Type 2 database does,
provenance.
Well, it's
pretty much.
Provenance. Here's what it does.
If you want to run the query,
it stores the metadata of the transactions within the table itself, within the database. So it's kind of self-referential in a way, because it tells you not only what the current state is, you actually have to calculate the current state, by selecting a subset of relevant records. But you can get the current state as of any point in time. So you can say, hey, what was everybody's balance as of,
It
2000?
might be more efficient than a UTXO set.
Well, yeah. But here's the thing, though, and here's the failing of that. So the failing of that versus blockchain technology is as it's capturing metadata, it doesn't necessarily capture all metadata. So someone with appropriate privileges could go in there into a database like this, a Type 2 database, and they could just delete that record that says, oh, Mike Tidwell, he got an update there with his balance on for 21 million, and it would show after that process goes, if you didn't have any logging on it or anything, which why would you? It would show that Michael Tidwell has always had $0, and
yeah, and I would argue that any private blockchain that says they have immutability, I would just call them. They couldn't keep the same. They would have a different type of immutability. They would have more like permissioned immutability versus
exactly.
public proof of work immutability.
So those Type 2 databases, as you point out, are immutable permissionally. Unless you have permissions, you can't change them. The same is true of private blockchains.
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
have permission, you can mutate whatever the hell you want.
Anything you want to change. I'm sorry, and some people like to argue this. You can change Linux. You can change Unix timestamps. You can rewrite Kafka topics.
Oh, you can totally.
You can do whatever you want when you have all the keys to the kingdom. If you have enough collusion between a federation of people that agree on what the data is, you can. If everyone wants to change it, it can be changed. You can't have immutability.
Even if you assign individualized tokens and only recognize those token signatures, you can change the rules and disallow that token ever from being issued anything.
Now here's a better question.
A
better question. If you, what gives better immutability, long term? Is it or short term, whatever? And this is a subjective question or answer. A private permissioned data store or a public blockchain?
Immutability?
If I'm gun-ho on keeping it private and secure and yada yada.
Wait. So you said an open blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
And
versus
what do you mean define private?
There's a spectrum of
you
of
can
how many
encrypt shit and
people
throw it on an open blockchain. That's pretty damn private. I mean,
I guess I'm just saying So I guess the real question is, what's more likely, malicious employees coming together, or leaders in a company coming together who have some kind of keys of the kingdom, or a 51% attack on Bitcoin? What's more likely?
Well, yeah.
As far as immutability is concerned.
Well, as far as so that's the whole thing.
Because those are the two things that you're worried about.
Open public blockchains retain the value of immutability. I mean, well, with exceptions, because so Type 1, Type 2 is an interesting parallel, because I would argue that Ethereum is essentially a Type 1. But by nature of it, so that's
with the checkpoint stuff.
Well, yeah.
Or what do you mean?
With the states, because Ethereum, the nodes only keep the current state. They don't keep the history.
Interesting
so
point.
Bitcoin is a Type
point.
2. Ethereum is a Type 1.
That's actually an insult. If anyone is nerd enough to know what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Ethereum, all the nodes only keep the current state. That's how it works, right? So
the funny part is I made this. I can't remember if it was the last podcast or me just talking to you on the side, Mike. But so did you hear my analogy of saying a private permission blockchain? There's a fine line between that and a public proof of stake blockchain.
No, I didn't hear that.
So my theory is when you centralize the idea of the valued token with a consensus model, like what a proof of stake blockchain would do, you have centralization faster than like a proof of work kind of idea, and you're going to lead yourself to a bunch of whales that really can control everything. And when I say that,
I've long held proof of stake as a path to centralization over time.
And when you do something like that, there's not much difference between a private permission blockchain with 3 people or 10 people who have permission on who can make writes to the blockchain, and a public blockchain where you have 10 people who are pretty much doing all the writes anyways. So there's a very fine line, in my opinion, between a POS public blockchain and a private permission blockchain. What do you think about that?
Well, as you guys were talking, it occurred to me that the the reason Satoshi, I think, went to all these things because these people knew all the pitfalls of these things, right? I mean, they knew about like databases clearly, and they knew about the fact that we have a banking cartel and all this stuff, right? They knew that people get together and they price fix LIBOR and they do all this stuff, right? And the only reason they can do it is because they can get away with it, right? So I think the innovation of proof of work in an open blockchain is reliant on the fact that how much security do you have and what are the parameters around entry into the market, right? So you could say, well, this one guy owns 56% of all the capacity. So what's the difference between that and just some banking cartel get together and they're altruistically say, we're going to have a permissioned blockchain that we can allow people entry on and that kind of thing. I don't think you can draw those conclusions just yet. I think the jury's still out on whether or not the way proof of work is implemented in Bitcoin, which solves the two generals problem in general. It solves it for the use case of a cryptocurrency coin like Bitcoin. It doesn't solve it. Like that's the misnomer. It doesn't solve it in general, right? There's no proof behind it, but the implementation of Bitcoin solves it for how it's working right now. That doesn't mean
one solved use case,
right? That doesn't mean in the future we're not going to see a total collapse and a total centralization and just like three whales own everything.
And I'd like to say Mike does a good job of, and I think this kind of is what differentiates us between people like Bitcoin Uncensored and their ideology that it's always going to be, or I can't really speak for them because I don't necessarily think that's true, but I'd like to say that I'm still open to proof of stake hybrids potentially or something.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm not like I think Michael B. Casey here and I were not sold on proof of stake because it hasn't proven itself to even be 8 years running solving a problem yet, and I think that it's ridiculous to assume that you can just throw up a private blockchain that you have Bank of America, you have Chase or whatever operating that is the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's not even the same ballpark.
I would say a bunch of different things. So proof of stake is completely different from a private blockchain because it's so easy to get into and box things into categories, but like you have left and right denominations of each one of these. So like you can have a public. So proof of stake, essentially a private blockchain is 100% proof of stake. Effectively, if it's a truly private blockchain, right?
Interesting point.
I mean, right?
I guess you could.
You own 100% of the stake. It's proof of stake.
We have proof of stake now with the Federal Reserve.
I guess you could equate the 100% proof of stake being like some private key to some user or something. Right?
Well, I mean, really,
access
what
admin privileges.
What it boils down to,
right.
Private blockchains are really more proof of authority. It's
I've
been authorized to do this. Therefore,
you can correlate stake to authority though.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Exactly. Well, yeah. If you have 100%, that's why I say that's 100% proof of stake. Basically,
proof
same
of
thing.
authority. I like that.
Right.
Good way to put it.
So, well, I've heard that before. That's not mine. But
coined right here by Mike B. Casey.
No,
you heard it here first, guys.
No.
Blocktime.
No, that's an Ethereum term. Anyway, but the difference between proof of stake on an open public network, proof of stake, I think in theory works fine if it's adequately decentralized. Like if literally everybody on the planet had an equal share of whatever at the beginning outset, it would be very, very well tolerated. But the problem that I see potentially is that proof of stake in and of itself is a centralizing force. The more money you get, the more stake you get, the more stake you can be rewarded for staking. You know what I mean? So the more denomination you can throw up to stake. So those who have make more than those who don't, which is a naturally centralizing force. And over time, eventually, logic dictates that it'll just collapse into a few very small entities owning the mass majority, in which those entities can collude.
But as a corollary to that, you could also say that it's very difficult to know who are the stakeholders, right? Like at least with if you're operating a mining pool and whatnot, that's 1 degree separated from that kind of thing.
It is 1 degree
and you can
separated,
sort of like work out
So
like
that's-
who the stakeholders are, but in proof of stake, you could have like just some Joe Schmo guy like me just. Oh, that guy over there, he owns like 56% of Ethereum. Yeah, he does. It's like, oh, I'd never known
Well,
that.
here's the problem. So you have the same problem with proof of stake that you have with proof of mining. The one before he left the space, James D'Angelo was talking about trying to tackle is like in Bitcoin. The problem is you can never be sure who's doing the mining. Like the actual mining pool operator, it's because it's anonymous. For all we know right now, somebody already has over 51% of the hash rate and has for quite some time.
Right.
There's no way to tell. He tried to propose a solution to it. I don't agree.
But that's also what's good about separating the value of the coin with the ability to write new blocks.
But it doesn't matter because the work is the work, and you can and people.
Well, right. So I would just say the exact same problem exists. Only I would say it's probably arguably worse in proof of stake. Because in proof of stake, stakers are also anonymous, right? So stakers can go ahead and create as many, I don't want to say Sybil nodes, like 'cause for a Sybil attack, as many nodes as they want to pretend as if they're other people and stake 51%, and they could, it could look to the rest of the network like, yeah, it's wholly decentralized, when in fact it's actually not. It's actually just one player holding all the cards. And the problem I always had with these things in such a scenario of a 51% attack. Proof of work is ridiculously, there's not much you can do with a 51%. Like you can effectively censor transactions. That's one thing you can do. You can run a couple attacks to increase your hash rate. You can do that. You can't really gain 100% total control, and more importantly, you can't steal funds. You absolutely cannot steal funds
Unless it was like 1 block ago.
Well, I mean,
It's a lot. Your confirmations matter. So if you're back,
well, you could perform a double spend.
Like this is the argument of if all my funds are locked away like 100 blocks ago, and I haven't made a transaction 100 blocks, you can't steal any of my money.
Well, yeah, but that's not stealing money because remember,
reversing history of transactions.
Well, you can
I
reverse
received.
a transaction, but that's only a double spend because remember, unless they sent you a transaction, they can't
but that's
do
no
shit.
different than stealing.
No. What I'm saying is.
You can't
it
break
is
the
different.
private key.
It is different than stealing because all they can do is turn back the clock and make things not happen. That's a double spend versus a theft because a theft means they could take from you arbitrarily your amount versus trying to send you some and then saying, whoopsie, no, I didn't. So that's a huge distinction.
I would say that's probably there's a
They're
subjective definition
They're both
of theft. Yeah.
One is a small problem. The other is a large problem. That's what I would say.
Yeah, PKI can't be compromised. That would ruin everything.
No, yeah, but I mean, in proof of stake systems, you're right. In proof of stake systems, PKI is not compromised, but yet they could rewrite history very far back.
Well, you said something I want to ask you about because maybe I have a misunderstanding, but
maybe I do.
So
we definitely do, Chris.
Let's target Ethereum for proof of stake, right? So say Ethereum's total proof of stake. You said earlier that you pretty much have a type 1 type of database where you have a snapshot of the state at any one particular moment. What I understood is that if they go to full proof of stake, these stakeholders can rewrite history, which is a bad thing, right? But you're still going to have people out there with nodes that have the blockchain in their state, which perceivably may or may not be rewritten per the stakeholders. And they could then raise the alarm and say, hey, listen, like these guys are stealing from you. They have, I have a blockchain here that shows that they just rewrote history. Is that not a thing that could happen?
Well, I mean, you see, this is where we get into the checkpointing thing, and what is because it went well. Okay, so say you control 51% of the nodes and 51% of the stake. At that point in time, you are the majority of the network. If 51% of the network believes the valid chain is the one that's been altered, it's the truth.
Yeah, it is the truth, but there will be people raising.
Oh yeah, no, people will raise it, but I mean, at that point, what do you do? Because
you can't. I understand.
I mean, it's a fork.
Yeah,
it's a fork.
The whole idea with I would say. I'm not like teaching.
No,
you.
I'm
I
not
know
saying people will be blind to the fact that they've done it.
Proof,
I'm just saying.
Proof of work, you can leave and come back and have a good idea what the truth is.
Well,
with proof of stake, you have to leave and come back and trust that
Well,
this type
yeah,
1
I mean,
database is in the right state.
Honestly, as long as it doesn't affect your funds, you're not likely to know which chain to trust.
Yeah, no,
There's no way to know.
And
I mean,
the proof of stake people will just say, "Well, that guy's a liar."
yeah, that guy's a liar. And if 51% of the network says,
all right,
"Oh,
would
that guy's full of shit," then
it almost might just come down to
because nodes will still
hard
available.
fork back rolls of the database, of the
but
almost
it's
similar
a
to
hard fork.
not really what they did with the DAO, but almost like not even
very
append
close
only.
to what they did with the DAO.
Well, no, because they did a append change. They might do a rollback change.
Yeah.
Even who knows?
Well, yeah, you could. I mean, that's the
they
thing.
might have to do a rollback change.
Well, yeah,
versus like a pin change. With
Well,
the
yeah,
DAO.
yeah. Like, but again, there's another attack. So hold on. So let's just say, what if you were to pretend
You have to trust a lot
that you had
Wait,
another
you-
history
you-
of it
you-
and they changed it?
You have to trust a
it's
lot
like-
of people with this system. I think.
Yeah, I mean, it gets. It
Yeah,
gets
you
silly.
have to. I mean, not to say you can't. Not to say that proof of work blockchains are completely trustless, but they're a lot more trustless. I think.
Yeah, Ethereum.
As far as
I still
I
have serious
understand proof of
questions
stake,
about Ethereum-based Casper.
we might be
it's-
wrong. We
we
could
may
be
very
very
well.
wrong about this. But I still so it's funny. I was talking about. I can't wait to see how proof of stake is implemented on Ethereum, blah blah blah, because then we'll really know if a proof of stake can work. I was talking this about Tizen, and Tizen like, well, it worked with Nextcoin, and I said, well,
Really?
Nextcoin's dead, and then he says, no, it's not, and I said, well, I'm waiting for this really popular platform that's has like a lot more hype around it to get proof of stake to the point where it got to the point where I guess it got about I don't know. Anyways, what do y'all think about that? Did Next do that right?
No,
Did-
Next is so small and so insignificant as
There
to
has
be
never
like,
been a major market proof of stake currency. Doesn't exist yet. I would safely say
No,
hasn't happened.
hasn't.
That's not
I
to
would
say
agree.
it won't.
I would agree.
It's not to say
Yeah.
it won't.
I would say if anyone's going to do it, Ethereum has the best chance right now.
Yeah. Well, right now,
Yeah.
yeah. Who knows
Yeah,
though? It's a wide open world.
And one of the things that just occurred to me is that you guys may have mentioned this, and maybe I didn't understand what you're saying, but you could have the minority. You could have a bunch of minority people, not minorities, but you could have people that are
Like black people.
No, you could have a bunch of people sort of band together and say, "Listen, we're going to attack the network, and what we're going to do is we're going to basically change our blockchain, and then we're going to say that." We're going to point to the rest of the chain and say that they've changed out from
Yeah, that
underneath
was what
us.
I was
Is that what
just
you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
that's another attack. It's
Yeah, it's
like,
another attack.
hey,
Okay,
false
sorry.
flag block change.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Sorry for repeating that, but
Yeah.
it did
well,
occur
no,
to me.
I mean, it just occurred to me too, because
Yeah.
it's another way. I mean, because it's perfectly viable. Because who's to say who's telling the truth in that?
Right,
You
and
really
they're
don't know.
they'll get headlines, right? Because it's salacious and whatever else, right?
Well, awesome discussions we're having.
Truth is subjectivity.
I got one more thing on the list. We can talk about what Mike's doing, and did we kind of talked about bubble stuff?
Oh, we didn't get that into it, but whatever.
Did you want to talk about that? Are we in a
I
bubble,
think we
Mike?
talked about bubbles.
Mike,
right?
did we? Mike, let me just ask you a quick question. Are we in a cryptocurrency bubble, and and another question? Are we in a Bitcoin bubble?
It's bubbles all the way down.
Okay.
No. Well,
There you
okay.
have it.
If you get into the specifics of my paper, which I'm not going to go into.
Give a shout out to the Medium post.
So I have a Medium
people
post.
at least know.
It's under Michael B. Casey. It's called Speculative Price / Adoption
Theory.
Theory of Bitcoin or some such nonsense. And basically, it says that Bitcoin's a series of bubbles. But I mean, as to the question, are we in a bubble right now? We're always in a bubble of sorts, I would say, with Bitcoin. But right now, I think, if I'm correct, we're in a phase that I call the volatileic rise, which is the beginning of the next bubble. So it's starting. Arguably, it started the moment we crossed the old high.
Like
But
1300 or something.
yeah, but it all depends on where you put your marks at. But it looks like we're what's happening right now is we're seeing a series of increases that are happening, and then they're sharp movements upward, followed by huge crashes afterward, and they're getting larger and larger, and they're getting more and more frequent. and they are leading to the larger bull run, which is itself a smaller bubble of the larger S curve of the adoption.
So these fractal patterns become more pronounced as we go into the next phase?
Yeah, well, which is funny. Yes, they do. I mean, they seem like they are. They're at least becoming more pronounced, but the scale of them seems to be declining, at least on a percentage value or a dollar value. Each bubble seems, on a percentage basis, smaller than the last, at least since we hit dollar parity, which was quite a while ago. But yeah, so it looks like right now, are we in a bubble? Arguably yes, arguably no. I think we're at the start of a bubble, and I think the bubble has a long way to go before it hits a peak, but it's definitely going to be a bubble. One thing I will say about it, I see all this time, I see people say it over and over again. I saw Vinny Lingam say it, and I saw people say it on the World Crypto Network show when you were on it. They say, well, we don't want Bitcoin to go up. We don't want Bitcoin to go up fast. We don't want that, right? And every time I hear that, I think to myself, who gives a crap what you want? Who cares? That's not necessarily what's going to happen. I mean, because if you really don't want it to go up, when it's going up, you need to sell. Because that'll keep it from going up. If everybody sells when it's going up, that'll keep it. Do you want to sell when it's going? You don't want to sell when it's going up? Really? You don't? Because it's going up? Well, guess what's going to happen? It's going to keep going up. It's like, right. Because it doesn't matter what you want. What matters is what people think is in their own best interest. So,
which you could also just abstain from buying.
Well, yeah,
or whatever.
Well, yeah, you can. Well, it depends on who you are and your circumstances. Because
right.
if you're a business and you need to buy, you're gonna buy.
I like to buy. I like to buy while it's going up and sell while it's going down.
Yeah, that's very profitable.
That would be good.
Yes, I guess. Well, actually, it depends on the stage of the bubble.
No, I like to sell near the high.
Yeah,
and,
sell near the high,
and then as soon as it starts going down significantly, I just sell all the way down in different amounts.
That's
and then,
actually a good way to make money, but yeah.
we're basically.
But the problem is you never know where the high is.
No, I was joking.
Exactly.
I buy at the top.
No, but we're basically.
Yeah, you sell on the way down, buy on the way up.
If I could summarize,
it depends. If you start low.
Anyways,
yeah,
I was kind of joking, but anyways,
yeah.
If I could summarize what you're saying basically we're in an inverse Fight Club situation where he says in Fight Club, basically people's survival chances, eventually, approach zero or go to zero, right?
Yeah.
And what you're saying is basically that we're in our adoption phase, we're going to the moon, and how long do you got? Because we're going to be in a series of bubbles for quite some time. Now, if you're a short-term trader and just want to cash in, cash out, cash in on this fractal pattern and whatnot, and be that kind of a trader, that's your business, and we may.
But if you time one of those wrong, you could lose a lot.
Well, yeah. See,
right.
that's the
and
thing.
So
this is the point I differentiate between the volatilic rise and the true bull run. Because the volatilic rise, if you try to play that,
if you miss
you can get totally screwed by missing it. Yeah, if you say,
it's
high, it's going to drop. And you could be totally right 3 out of the 4 times. But the 4th time is going to kill you. You will be wrecked.
So would you say people like Tizen and Leon Fu have like a strategy that might not work long term if a bunch of things bull run or what?
I don't know what their strategy is. I mean, see, here's the thing.
Or day traders. Let's just talk about day traders.
Okay. So you get into things with alts. Let's talk about alts for a second, because alts are, they have their own bubble pattern. But the biggest thing about alts is right now, especially, their pattern runs. It's running alongside Bitcoins. So every time I see everybody else talk about Ethereum's spectacular run that we had, to me, it doesn't seem like all that much. Because the only big run I saw on Ethereum, because I measure everything in bit cents, right? So I saw Ethereum was hovering around 3.5 bit cents. All of a sudden it spiked up to 5. But that wasn't recently when it's had its huge run that everybody was so excited about. No, that was a few months back. That was when the big change happened for me in Ethereum, right? Because I saw it gained ground against Bitcoin. But now the result of the current when it hit $100, I wasn't even looking at the fiat price. It was staying relatively steadily because it's been bouncing between 0.4 and 0.6 Bitcoins for the last few months.
Yeah, but a lot of people look at the USD price, obviously.
Sorry.
Well,
bit cents.
You got it. I think that's the biggest Bitcoin hipster move is to price everything in a Bitcoin.
Since 2013, baby. Since 2013,
right?
I've been pricing everything in Bitcoin.
How many bit cents is that?
4 to 6 bit cents in Ether has been 4 to 6 bit cents.
Hey, let's go ahead and wrap it up. I want to talk about one more thing before we do. You're organizing your first meetup without me, by yourself. What is the topic, and what are you going to do? Are you going to film it for people? What's going on with Tab?
If I can figure out the camera. No. So Tab's the Atlanta Blockchain, which is our meetup group. And so I've arranged for, I got to say this right, the Linux Hyperledger project.
Foundation.
The Linux Foundation Hyperledger project. It's a group from IBM is presenting on the Linux,
which I'm
Foundation
very upset
Hyperledger
I don't
project.
get to attend because I would love to ask them. Oh man, almost hecklish like questions. You know, I mean,
See, I don't think that you can say that Linux Hyperledger thing without rolling your eyes. I don't think you can do it.
wait a minute. To be fair, he didn't roll his eyes.
I did not. No, I wasn't
You
facing
kinda-
the
you
camera.
kinda said it
I
like
wasn't
you-
facing the camera.
Your voice was a virtual rolling of the eyes.
I was trying to get it right.
What,
I was
so one thing I do like what we're doing is we're giving equal opportunity to people at least saying that they're using blockchains and stuff like that, and we get to explore it with the speaker. So
Well, our meetup group has been the Atlanta Blockchain. That's what you decided to name it, and actually ended
not
up
the
being
Atlanta
really,
Bitcoin. So
yeah. Well, so it's actually really good because it's opened us up to all sorts of different technologies, and we've had speakers from all sorts of different stripes, come and basically tell us what their project's about. But we've been traditionally on the cryptocurrency side of everything, regardless of whatever projects we're looking at. It's always on the cryptocurrency side, or things like Augur or stuff like that, where it's still similar vein. So public open stuff. So this is the first thing that we've had that's consortium or private blockchain. So it'll be nice to actually take a look at that side of the house. I know it's not what we focus on, but it'll be good to at least, especially for our members, give them a good representation of what Hyperledger Fabric's all about.
Well, did you have anything else that you want to talk about, or?
We'll get to fee market next time, I guess.
Oh,
But
we didn't talk about fee market.
We little bit.
You want to talk
we were
about?
talking about
You
the
want to talk about that real
implications
quick?
of-
I don't know if anybody's interested in it. But
I'm
it's just-
interested in it. Damn it!
Go ahead. I completely forgot you wanted to talk
Well,
about that.
I'll throw it out
Yeah.
there, and if it piques somebody's interest, they can hit me up in the
I-
comments or something like that.
You're such
We
a
have
new member
comments?
of this team. I just forget what you want to talk about sometimes.
No, I haven't heard. Okay, so one of the things I like is I like to talk about things that haven't been addressed. Like the bubble thing is fine, but everybody's talking about that. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
you can talk about like everybody's. Anyway, so this fee market thing,
Everyone's talking about it.
everybody when
My-
the price goes up,
My
people
mother,
talk about it.
My mom's talking about it.
Okay, when the price goes up, then all of us fanboys talk about it. When the price goes down, it's on Forbes and it's on the New York Times and everything.
So good. That's a great way to explain it. They never talk about it going up.
No.
They do seldomly actually talk about it going up
But
a
they
lot.
damn sure talk about
but
what's going down.
They make sure to cover if it drops 20%.
Bitcoin dropped 20% overnight. Anyway, so this fee market thing is something. Okay, so what we're seeing a lot of times when we see a lot of transactions on the network is there's quite a few that fall below the threshold of actually being able to be mined. So, for example, if you go to 21.co, they have a fee. They have sort of a fee calculator on there. It's pretty good. It uses a Monte Carlo algorithm to calculate what your appropriate fee should be.
They use a car's engine.
Yeah, it's
No,
called.
it's a city. They have gambling there.
Yeah.
I just know about the car, Monte Carlo.
So 21.co, they have a really good fee calculator, and they show the breakdown of the different buckets of fees. Like, so you might have 100,000 transactions waiting in the mempool, right? And you're going to have a distribution, right? And obviously the ones that typically have a higher fee will get mined first and that kind of thing. So, and they give you, like, if you want the fastest and cheapest way to get into the next 2 or 3 blocks, then your fee should be, I don't know, 220 satoshis per byte or whatever. So what I'm seeing, what I want to bring up to people is that one of the reasons, if you look at the fee market day by day, it raises a lot of questions. You're like, okay, why isn't the behavior acting like I think it's supposed to be acting? Because you saw a sort of meteoric rise from like January of 2016 to January of 2017. It was crazy. Like if you look at a graph, it was very exponential, right? X squared kind of thing. So But you don't see that happening anymore. You kind of leveled off, right? So you see exponential and then sort of leveled off. Well, why is that? And I think it's because a lot of older wallets sort of have a fixed fee schedule, right? They may only have 1,000 satoshis for their transaction, or they might have, which is way under what it should be. So people end up spending their Bitcoin, and it's never going to get mined, right? And they just have to wait till it comes back. But in essence, the fact that they do that is actually holding our fee market in place, right? So you have an exponential rise, and then you have a leveling off. And so what's going to happen? What I'm suggesting to people is that going forward, this might feed into your strategies in investing or your strategies in other things. Is that once people change out their wallets for newer versions of the wallets, which actually have a better fee calculator, a better fee estimator, you're going to see a big time rise in fees again, because instead of having 50% of the market having an inappropriate fee, you're going to have like 75-80% of the market having a totally appropriate fee. And you're basically going to have like what the problems that plague English auctions. You're going to have a bidding war that's going to take fees into an astronomical level. You're going to see fees in $8, $10, $15, that kind of thing.
That's ridiculous.
You want to look at the fees? This chart right here.
That's blockchain fee thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is called.
Oh wow.
Total transaction fees paid to miners, not including the Coinbase value of block rewards.
Right. Go to
Wow.
the 21 page real quick if you can.
That's pretty
21
crazy.
Co.
21.co. I don't remember it's like a subdomain. I think.
Yeah, but that looked pretty exponential there.
Right. But the
You're talking about right here.
No, it's
21 Co.
Go to Google and type in 21.co fee calculator or fee estimator.
Oh, okay. You're looking for like the actual calculator.
Yeah, it shows like
I
a
was
bar
trying to
graph.
just show you the graph on blockchain.
This graph has been referenced on our Bitcoin.
Bitcoin fees
Yeah, that's it.
.21.co.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, you'll see all the buckets here.
Yeah.
The buckets are vertical there, like from the top. You can see kind of scroll down a little bit. You'll see what they recommend as the fee.
What, the stuff in the green?
Yeah, what do
this
they
is
say in
their
my glasses?
calculation.
240 satoshis per byte is what they recommend,
Holy
right?
shit.
Which is right now?
Yeah, 240.
Holy crap.
That's-
That's over $1
That's
typically.
no
That's
wait.
80 some cents,
That's
maybe?
almost like that's almost $2, right?
No,
No.
do a calculation. 226 bytes is a typical transaction where you have two outputs and
All
one
right,
input.
all right.
And it's
226 bytes
times 240.
times 240
right.
is
And then
54,240 satoshis
current
per
price
17
is 17.
so almost $1.
Yeah.
So
right about $1.
93 cents.
Okay, so take a look at that
1776.
bar.
Or is that yeah 93 almost 94 cents
Take a look at that bar graph that's way out of whack up there.
right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about
Okay,
it?
so what I'm saying is that
You
that
have people who just are doing low priority transactions, right? Maybe.
Well,
No, I don't think so.
in
That's what I'm
he's
suggesting.
Saying, he's saying it's wallets are doing shitty
Well,
calculations.
hold on. Let's
exactly.
Let's see what Mycelium recommends right now.
Yeah,
to-
but you're not a good representative.
No. He's saying what
With
the
low
Satoshi
transaction, high priority.
like hit the level of check out high priority and see what it tells
Yeah,
you.
Right,
let's just see what Mycelium recommends right now versus like something like BitPay. So right now, low priority is 129, which
Okay.
would mesh with this bar graph.
Okay.
Economic is 143. Normal is 195. High priority is 240. So
Okay.
that's
So what-
Mycelium.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that
So that meshes with this graph. The low
Well,
priority.
that's one wallet. He's saying there's
Well,
other wallets.
Let's look at BitPay.
no.
Oh wait,
forget-
BitPay doesn't have low priority.
No, they
does
do.
it?
They
oh,
do.
they do.
And
Okay.
it is a bit lower than 240. What I'm saying is that a lot of people, especially on time-based transactions, where you're trying to get your transaction through, so you can actually get.
Well,
a
I
certain-
wonder what Electrum's doing. I wonder what Electrum's doing.
I thought.
No,
all of our
I
things were messed up.
accidentally flipped the switch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonder what Electrum's doing.
What I'm saying is that once you get a lot of these older wallets out of the picture, and you start getting people properly bidding, because that graph, look how out of whack it is with everything else.
I'm not 100% convinced that you're right.
Yeah, look at the actual.
These might still be low priority transactions sent on normal wallets.
Right, but you have to get in line to the back, right?
I think people don't give a shit. I think if
Well,
it
the
takes
cost has outstripped it.
if this never confirms, then
oh shit, what happened? So the
if this never confirms, I'll just send it again with a slightly higher.
So-
I'm not. This
Yeah.
is no rush.
The
kinda
example
payment.
is if I'm sending Tidwell some, like, then if it's between me and him, it's like, hey, I'm going to send you some
Right.
low pry.
But I think I
but-
think moving forward, we're going to have situations where people do want.
Well, here's the problem.
They don't want to take a week.
Let's
to
look
get
at let's
So-
look at this chart. So this is the
So-
total fees collected, and let's see. It
That's
really only. Gosh, it's interesting because there's actually I didn't realize back in 2011 there was a fee market.
No, that wasn't a fee market. I mean,
What the hell was going on here?
it was just a little bit of
that's
a
people.
backlog.
That's
that got
people
cleared.
actually kicking in some fees.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, it still would have processed anyway. They just wanted it in order, so it'd be in the next block.
Well, that's very interesting that you had fees that early. But
Actually,
anyways.
I don't know because they were ordered by age back then, right?
Well,
So-
this might have also been the first bull run.
Oh,
kinda
it
time
definitely
period.
was. Like
And this looks like the second,
Well,
or
actually, no.
Mount Gox kind of time area.
Let's see. Hold on.
So it's reasonable to expect that more people are going to be transacting on the Bitcoin network as we move forward in time. Is that
God,
correct?
man, what the hell happened?
If that's
here?
correct, then you have to then a
Well,
rising
see-
tide raises all boats, and you're going to have that even the average or low priority fee is going to go.
Well, here's what I would argue. So I understand your hypothesis and your theory, and it makes sense to a certain degree. But here, let me present an alternative. So the alternative could be that, in fact, what it's doing is because the fee market's so high, is it's actually changing and curtailing the use cases, right? So people who would be sending, high priority transactions to make it in the next block are now saying, okay, well, I'm either not going to send that transaction, or I'm going to send it as a low priority transaction, and I can't. I'm priced out of the use case of doing an online purchase within the next 10 minutes, something like that. So I mean, that may be very well what's happening too. Maybe they're using adequately pricing wallets, but they're just saying, "My God, do I really want to pay a freaking dollar for like a $30 video game on Steam? That doesn't make sense."
And you are seeing that.
It's like-
However, the other thing is that you're gonna see. We already see the average transaction amount going up, right? Which is natural for what you just said. But what you're also going to see is you're going to see a lot of people changing their behaviors and whatnot, and they're either going to be moving to altcoins or going to be moving to, maybe they batch up their transactions or use a payment channel or something like that. But I think the fee market has a ways to go before it sort of people really start to balk.
Well,
Like
I mean,
the-
looking at that chart, it's scary because when are we expecting it to stop? I mean,
I think you're going to have a breakout.
until you break out up
Yeah.
even more. Yeah, I agree. I think until payment channels really kind of combat that, I think they're going to be, even with payment channels, I think it'll still go up
Here is my question.
with 1 megabyte.
Here's
blocks.
my question. At what point is Bitcoin priced out of most use cases?
I think it already is priced out in most use cases. Right now, it's really large transactions, or if you absolutely 100% need to use it for like something.
So the only use case left at
it's
this
for, like,
point
drugs
is
and store
basically
of value.
store of value.
Yeah, I mean,
and illicit transactions.
Yeah,
but
illicit-
again, I would argue there's better mediums for illicit transactions.
there might be, but right now
with
it's-
lower fees.
right now it's not being subsidized like the other blockchains. You can almost
you mean by
argue
inflation?
No, almost like arguing that
What do you mean by subsidized?
speculators pumping in or miners.
I would argue the exact opposite. I think.
Well, all right. So think of it like this. So if like Ethereum has cheaper transactions, but they have more data that the miners have to hold on to, or
It's the opposite.
nodes.
No,
What do you mean?
Ethereum's type 1. Remember, they have less data.
Right. Not right now.
Wait,
Yeah,
what are
they've
you talking
always
about?
like
Their
they've always
blockchain
been-
is larger than Bitcoin's.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Like. I don't
No.
understand
What
how
I'm
that
trying to
works
say
in
is it's almost
Casper.
like
I
being
have to-
subsidized by like the speculative purposes of the coin. I don't know how to explain this. Maybe you know what I'm saying though, but it's almost like it's goodwill subsidization of like not really like the utility, but more of like the speculative association to the blockchain. You know, where you know, these relay nodes are you know, buying bigger drives, or, you know, propagating more data and stuff to make those transactions cheaper, right?
Yeah. Okay. So relay nodes. Sorry, I was thinking about something.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a
So you're
farty
talking
idea,
about
but
wait. You're saying alts are subsidized. Why are you saying alts are subsidized?
because well, think of it like this: why haven't we? What's the argument against raising the block size for Bitcoin?
Well, because the chief argument is because it makes it unaffordable to run a node.
Exactly.
And leads to centralization.
So if that argument is true, which let's just for this argument's sake, let's say it is true, even though it might not be. Let's just say it is for this argument. Then that would mean that the blockchains that have bigger blocks that can do more transactions per second, if they actually start getting maxed out, then they would have their miners, you know, doing something that possibly isn't in their best interest as far as, you know, holding on to all that data, propagating all that data, validating all that data.
Well, okay, so you're talking about from a standpoint of a node?
Sure.
Well, see, because here's the whole thing. This is my whole argument against it. Most people don't run nodes. Most people SPV wallets are fine with, right? Yeah, you know, there's risk involved with that because you could be Sybil attacked, or, you know, depending on who you connect to with yours, you have to connect to a node that you trust, you know, or, you know, there's ways to mitigate that. You can set a client to configure to a random, you know, round robin cycle of nodes or whatever to see, and you can even say, hey, I'm going to configure to a bunch of different nodes to see if they match each other and cross check a couple.
That's how SPV works.
Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, some wallets aren't SPV today. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Mycelium runs off a static backend. So, but
Oh,
most
does it
people,
really?
Yes, it does. I didn't know that. Yeah, for a long time.
By the way, the BitPay does too. It's running.
Well, yeah. So off of Bitcore or what?
Yeah, it runs against a wallet server. So
yeah,
which you can run yourself. If
Are
you
there
want to.
any true SPV wallets out there?
Yeah,
Like
Electrum.
well, no, I'm talking about light wallets.
Yeah, they're like Samurai. I think is one. of them.
Samurai's true
I think
SPV.
it's-
Cool.
I think so.
Anyway,
No, I'm not expert in that.
well, yeah, I mean, we need more SPV wallets, but I would argue that for the vast majority of users, you don't need to run your own node. And so saying that everybody has to run their own node, I think no, I don't think that's necessary.
No, and I'm just trying to give people some. What I see is the fee market will sort of go hyperbolic again at some point, and that may cut down on our. I've been a big proponent of identifying use cases for Bitcoin, looking at verticals, and
If
we're
you
gonna,
look at the chart, it's barely slowed down. If you look at the chart, Tidwell
It kinda
just
has.
had
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Guest 3476 says all the new money coming in seems to be flocking to potential utility. Quality education is going to be essential for the longevity of the broad adoption of the quality.
right,
of these
and
Which is
I
true.
think I'm
Very
trying to
true.
say
That, I guess maybe that's what I was trying to say. Where it's almost like the speculative use
It's all
cases
speculative, yeah.
and ideas is, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay, I
a
get
lot
you.
a lot of these things are out of whack because of the speculative money coming in. I would say that as well.
no,
It's really
the
hard
speculation
to gauge.
is a use case, a valid use case, but it's dependent on what people.
No, what
perceive
I'm
as-
trying to say is it's like really hard to know if like what blockchain projects are actually good and have like good utility with all the speculative money coming in and kind of
Yeah.
messing up like
Yeah.
okay, well if this has a lot of like cuz I think it's almost human nature to see like if this blockchain project has a lot of money coming in, it's worth a lot of money and it's like worth, you know, it's going up like crazy, then it's almost like human nature to think, well, it must have a lot of utility.
Yeah,
versus
I
these
think
other
what you're,
blockchains.
I think what you're saying is there's a lot of dumb money coming
I
in.
mean, but the funny part is like all the smart money is really the dumb money. Almost, it's really hard to determine. It's really hard to differentiate between the dumb money and the smart money. And I hate when people say like, "Well, the smart money is going into this," or "The smart money is going
really,
into that."
really funny. Like Vinny Lingham, like he said right before this last pump, he said, "Oh, the smart money after the whole SegWit debacle, the smart money left Bitcoin 3 days ago.
Any
and
way
then it just does all this shit.
Any
It's like,
way, anybody who says the smart money, I don't know.
I've heard people say, "Listen, I'm investing in a broad spectrum of ICOs because that's what traditional VCs would do. They would spread out their investments into all these companies
that's-
that they know 90% will just be complete flops. But there might be one or two
That's the
that's
fluffy
actually,
pony approach too. I know a number of people that are doing it. Fluffy. He
I
says
think that's a
he
valid
throws
approach.
$100 into every shit coin. Is what he says. He just throws $100 into everything. See
That's
what
a
sticks.
valid.
It's a
strategy.
valid approach because all you need is that's a VC approach too. That's exactly what VCs do.
Spray and pray.
Spray
Well,
and
no,
pray,
what they
yeah.
do is
Yeah.
they gather 20 potentials that look like they're good, and then they throw a little bit of money at each. And 19 of them are going to fail, but one of them is going to
No,
do
but the-
50x.
VCs are
and
doing.
it's like,
It's funny though, but like traditional VC funding was let's invest in this company. Now it's like let's invest in this pre-company and get money before this company produces any utility, which is like the opposite of normal VC funding, which is like I want to invest in this company. It might not be a year or 2 years or whatever before I can make some of my money back. It's almost like VC gambling now.
Yeah.
VC's always been gambling.
Well,
This is
this is a different. This is like
this is slot gambling.
This is like
entered
crap.
CDOs. This is the these are
my thing is that a lot of these
derivatives.
ICOs are based on they're based on Ethereum, which is not a thing anyway. It's not a proven thing anyway. So
Have you heard of the South Seas bubble?
no, I don't think so.
that was the
Krista
Dutchy
Rose-
Sentius company.
Krista Rose made this analogy, and I looked up the South Seas bubble, but essentially, like back several hundred years ago or something in Europe.
The Dutch East India Company, right?
Yeah. The South Seas Company. They called it the South Seas bubble because they opened up this company to help get rid of all like the debt in Great Britain or whatever, and then it essentially became like a Ponzi bubble scheme that like the whole like country bought into or something, and that they're still paying off the debt of or whatever. It was interesting. I'm probably not doing a good job talking about it right now, but
Yeah, I remember something about that with the First World War. They had it was around the First World War, or is it
Hundreds of years ago.
Oh, okay.
it was like
No,
they were
this
going
was
to
like
set trading routes.
1700s.
They're going to set up like trading routes to like South America, and like that was like all the utility. It's almost it's almost like if you don't think Ethereum is ever going to have utility, it's almost like the same thing where it's like we're going to be able to send ships to South America and produce all this wealth with these trade routes and all this stuff, and then the utility was like there's like one ship that got there and then it got turned away.
Yeah,
that was like the
remember
height of like the actual any utility of the company.
Well, that's what it is. Pure and spill. It's rampant speculation. I mean, and sometimes it pays off, and most of the time it doesn't.
Yeah. So
you want to end it on that note?
Yeah, we'll just end it on that. End it on a down note of like.
All right, everything is crap. Have a good day.
I think
I'll let you say.
I think you need to hire somebody like Michael B. Casey here to scout out what is crap and what isn't crap.
And Michael B. Casey has a consulting service. He only charges $500 an hour.
I do have a private company.
There will be
it's a
people like
holding
that. There will be
company.
people that go out and.
I personally only charge $400 an hour. I am competing with him, so
that
better.
sounds like a good job for you. Like you go out to San
do
Francisco all the time and you talk to people that.
I do proof of concepts on all kinds of stuff. So if you want me to do a proof of concept on your blockchain idea, no problem.
We need to shill more.
Yeah,
That's where the money is.
yeah.
Yeah.
I need to take a page out of Vortex's book.
Yeah.
With consulting. Anyways, we need to do a sign out. We need to like figure out like a new outro with Chris.
Yeah, we do. We don't have one.
Chris, do you want to give a sign out before we end? You're still kind of new to this.
What do you got? You guys say something
Usually
like,
give like a Twitter, Reddit, whatever you want. Like I don't know, probably not email.
So
Yeah,
why don't
I
you
don't
just say this has been, and we'll do the same thing as the intro.
What?
This has been
A good time.
no Michael Tidwell.
This has been Michael Tidwell.
Yeah. Yeah.
When have we ever said that?
We never. That's what we're saying. We're doing it new.
Michael Tidwell.
This has been Michael Tidwell, Michael B. Casey, and Chris Lee Schulte.
Oh,
we're signing out.
I see what you're doing.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that.
That was very confusing.
All right.
No, I want to. I mean, should we not give out?
just do a Bugs Bunny. That's all, folks.
Ebony. You know,
All right.
they're not allowed to show Porky Pig anymore.
Racist?
No, it's stuttering. It makes fun of stutterers. Yeah.
It's microaggression.
Yeah.
I think they're giving equal opportunity rights to the
You know,
stutterers.
they banished
They're
Speedy
making it-
Gonzalez till the Mexicans made him bring it back.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
hilarious. That's hilarious. That cartoon's the best.
Yeah.
well,
Although Pepe Le Pew was a bit rapey.
what about?
You can make fun of French people.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, yibbity 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 yibbity. That's all, folks.
Thanks for watching. Bye.